Started. Can everyone have a seat, please? Who do I call? Jim, how do I call up? How are you? Thank you for being here. I don't know the principal of the school. Where does it say that here? It says the name of the principal of the school here? I think he got left off.
No, put it on.
It's not here. This is not it. Okay, this is a different one than this one that I had?
Yeah, because we added
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jonathan.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Do you want me to introduce you? Okay. Thank you for interpreting, though. I really appreciate it. He wants to, there's an extra water here. Okay. Okay. It is very warm in here. Should I start? We don't have the list of who's... Oh, I don't care about that. I want to get started. Do we have a list? Okay. So I'm going to start. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is a huge turnout and very exciting to have zoning be such a hot topic. I am here with James Karras, who's General Counsel and Head of Land Use Division, and I know Blasio is here also in all the Land Use Division, and I want to thank our interpreters, and I want to thank Councilmember Rosie Mendez. Where's Rosie? There she is. And Assembly Member Deborah Glick, wherever Deborah Glick is. There you are. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Gail Brewer, and I'm here tonight to listen to your comments and hear your views and concerns on two really important proposals to change, or not change, depending, our borough's zoning. The administration has proposed two citywide amendments to our zoning resolution, which will change the way in which affordable housing is built and the requirements for building that housing. These proposals are moving through a public review process, so it is really important for me and all of us to hear your views and concerns on these proposals. That's what we're here tonight to do, and I will let you know that Queens is meeting at the same time. Bronx has already met, and Brooklyn and Staten Island are going to meet soon. The first proposal, zoning for quality and affordability, alters how senior housing is classified and constructed. It reduces parking requirements for the construction of affordable housing and changes the allowable shape of buildings, including height, when buildings contain affordable or senior housing. I appreciate the goals of this text amendment, but I have concerns with the specifics, especially around the changes to the building envelopes when senior or affordable housing is provided. There is an across-the-board 5-foot height increase for a qualifying ground floor. However, most of the additional height increases would be tied to the provision of senior housing or affordable housing. Today, a developer can build affordable housing under two voluntary or opt-in programs. One, the older R10 program, which allows affordable housing in return for a generous density bonus in our densest residential districts. And two, a voluntary inclusionary housing program, which gives a bonus to developers in medium to high density residential districts specifically mapped for this program in return for providing affordable housing. Under ZQA, initials I never heard of until recently, zoning for quality and affordability, in combination with the 5 feet across the board increase for qualifying ground floors, these height increases would in most cases result in increases of up to 25 feet, but in some cases could be 50 feet. If we are going to consider this additional height, I think that the voluntary inclusionary housing program should be fixed so that we know it is providing us with the maximum and best opportunities for affordable housing in return for this added height. If that means prohibiting poor doors, requiring more affordable housing in our hottest neighborhoods, which seems to be every neighborhood, and preventing double dipping with the 421A program. The other program is the Mandatory Inclusionary Housing, or MIH program. It's the second proposal from the administration to create affordable housing. This program would apply to specific future developments needing special permits or to neighborhood-wide rezonings, as you have heard regarding discussions that are taking place in East Harlem and Inwood, which would allow for significant new residential development. This program would require developers to provide either 25% or 30% affordable housing, depending on the degree of affordability, or target AMI, which of course is the issue of what is the median income, and that's a whole other discussion in that neighborhood. I support mandatory inclusionary zoning if it were up to me. All new significant residential developments would require some affordable housing. I especially support the idea, thank you, of allowing, but I'm not in charge. I especially support the idea of allowing the program to apply to special permits or those actions that apply to a single development that come through ULURP, so that the city could decide that developers converting buildings to residential use have to build affordable housing or contribute to a fund, and that's another whole topic. But we do have concerns about implementation regarding the MIH program, including when exactly the provisions requiring affordable housing in the case of special permits are triggered. We have concerns about protection against harassment for rent-regulated tenants. We have concerns about transparency and assurances that money in the fund from Manhattan developments and projects gets spent in the same Manhattan community. We have also heard from many Manhattan community boards, and I want to thank the community boards for all of your hard work. We have heard from the community boards that the affordable housing income bands are inadequate and should allow for more housing at both the lowest and more moderate income levels. We have worked very hard and very closely with our community boards, Manhattan elected officials, and organizations to support you and to support them in their review of these proposals. The Department of City Planning came to the October 15th Borough Board to present both proposals, meeting number 1. Number 2, our land use staff ran additional informational sessions for community board chairs, land use and housing committee chairs, and any members who wanted to attend on October 16th and October 30th. 3, my land use staff ran an additional session for our staff and community liaisons on October 8th. 4, I've met twice with the Manhattan delegation, staff, and officials on these proposals. That's federal, state, and city delegation. 5, we have met with the landmarks advocacy groups and with affordable housing nonprofits all through October. Letters which my office has written to the Department of City Planning, where my questions and concerns are laid out more fully, are available in the back of this room. I particularly want to thank the Department of City Planning and HPD for being here tonight to listen to the concerns of Manhattanites. I really want to thank Manhattan Commissioner on the City Planning Commission, Anne Levin. She deserves to stand up and a big round of applause. Where's Anne Levin? Right there in the back. She asked really good questions, and she's really smart. I especially want to thank her, who works so hard and takes her position so seriously, and she's here to listen. A special thanks to Jonathan Levin, principal of the school, the Clinton School, for writers and artists, for letting us use this new room, although it's hot as hell. My comments on these proposals are not due until Monday, November 30th, 2 weeks from now. You've heard some of our thoughts, and we want to hear yours. Much thanks to every single person for coming here tonight, and there are a lot of us who are going to be listening very carefully and respectfully to what you have to say. This is a huge turnout. Thank you very much. And our first speaker, you have 3 minutes. We have a timer. We will listen to every single and read every single proposal that comes in. So if you don't give the whole thing and you summarize, I promise you, we will hear it all. Naveed Hussain, who is CAV, the lead organizer, please come up. And then Tiana Leonard will follow, and we'll go through so you're ready to go for the next person. So first we want to hear from CAV. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Borough President Brewer. My name is Mandatory Inclusionary Housing. My name is Mandatory Inclusionary, lead organizer at CAB, Organizing Asian Communities. On behalf of our members in both Chinatown and in Queens, CAB would like to voice opposition to the Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Program, as well as the zoning for Quality and Affordability plan. If ZQA is passed, it would mean the developers would be allowed to build taller buildings, which would eventually lead to the type of speculative development, which would eventually decrease the current rent-stabilized and affordable housing stock in the city. And MIH is neither ready for those seeking affordable housing as well. The truth is that the numbers used to determine affordability under the MIH plan would not help the actual individual and families that really need affordable housing. For example, our members in Chinatown, 100% of our membership makes less than $35,000 a year. Under the MIH, affordability is applied to families of 4 making 60% of AMI, which would mean a salary of $59,780. In Queensbridge, over 70% of our members make less than $25,000 a year. 100% of our senior citizen members make less than $10,000 a year. These are people who have been living in New York City for decades. And are the makeup of this community in the city. What all this means is that these families that contribute to the economy and culture of New York City will be denied affordable housing when they are the most in need of affordable housing. In order to best provide affordable housing for New Yorkers, the city needs to help preserve the current affordable and rent-stabilized housing stock, or have realistic AMI numbers that are tuned to the reality of the residents of New York City. MIH and ZQA fails to address the problem of affordable housing, and this is why the members of CAB oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tiana, after that is Moses Gates. Thank you very much. And we've been joined by Councilmember Helen Rosenthal. Wherever you are, Helen, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, President Brewer, for convening this important meeting. My name is Thank you.
Yep, good.
Thank you, President Brewer, for convening this important meeting. My name is Tiana Leonard. I am chair of the Affordable Housing Committee of the New York City League of Women Voters. You may think that the League is only concerned with voting and elections. This is a narrow view. Although the League is nonpartisan and does not take positions on candidates and parties, It takes strong positions on issues. The League is firmly committed to equal rights, in particular equal rights to education, employment, and housing. Eliminating housing segregation by class and income in order to produce truly integrated neighborhoods will foster equality of opportunity in education and start us on the path to finally fulfilling the promises articulated in our Constitution. The Mayor's plan for mandatory inclusionary zoning is a small step forward in this regard. However, we feel there are several important modifications that must be made to prevent these zoning changes from being one more giveaway. When the developer receives this inclusionary bonus, we ask that affordable apartments be provided on 80%, not 65% of the floors. We also urge that all apartments be created equal with the same kitchens, floors, and other finishes as the market rate. They should also be on equal exposures, not on the northern side. All amenities such as playgrounds, laundry rooms, pools, and gyms should be available to all residents. Finally, to promote true integration, affordable apartments should be targeted to a range of incomes rather than one narrow slice of the affordable spectrum. We now turn to the proposal for improving zoning quality and affordability. This proposal aims to facilitate the building of supportive senior housing, but it leaves a loophole. It is critical that this senior housing be permanently affordable. Developers should not get the additional square footage and then be able to convert the apartments to market rate after a few decades. We applaud Mayor Blasio, Deputy Mayor Glenn, and Commissioners Weisbrot and Bean for all they are doing to promote affordable housing. We hope these suggestions will turn a good plan into a great plan for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion States and then Blasio.
Madam Borough President, thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Moses Skates, and I'm here from the Association for Neighborhood Housing Development. We are an association of almost 100 locally based nonprofit organizations that deal directly with community concerns, and especially housing concerns. And we have been the foremost force, I would say, behind mandatory inclusionary zoning's proposal in New York City, which is why we're very disappointed we have to come here and testify against the mayor's proposed mandatory inclusionary zoning proposal as it stands today. Quite simply, inclusionary zoning is about inclusion, and we cannot have an inclusive policy when we leave out the 1/3 of New Yorkers that are making less than 40% of AMI out of this equation. We need to readdress the options to make them more responsive to our very communities, to make sure that in exchange for the enormously lucrative zoning bonus that, especially in the borough of Manhattan, developers are going to get from the added FAR, that we really create truly inclusive communities. We are calling for additional options of low AMI, specifically at least 30% and 30% of AMI. We are calling for all options across the board to address the needs of the folks making extremely and very low incomes in New York City at 30% AMI and less. We are calling for an elimination of the gentrification option, the 120% AMI option there, that would address folks making over 6 figures and call that low-income housing. And we really are also calling for a difference in the on-site and off-site proposals for this particular program. As it stands right now, developers can build housing on-site or off-site, the same amount of housing. And quite simply, if you're trying to create inclusive, integrated communities, we are talking about that in one building where all residents have equal access to everything that the building provides. If you are going to build off-site affordable housing, if you can get more units for the same amount of money, perhaps then that's a fair trade-off. But this proposal does not address that trade-off. Which is why we're calling for, if the developer wants to build off-site, an additional 10% of units must be built if they're going to do off-site inclusionary, and furthermore, that in the on-site units, the building should not just have similar entrances and lobbies, but be fully integrated through all common areas throughout the particular jurisdiction. I also wanted to quickly mention the zoning for quality and affordability proposal. We have some suggestions for improvements for that, such as permanent affordability for everything built under it. But on balance, we do believe it addresses our senior citizens' crisis, creates more flexible building envelopes, makes it easier to build affordable and senior housing, and we do commend the administration for their T2A proposal. But we are very disappointed that we have to be here testifying against mandatory inclusionary housing unless it becomes substantially better and substantially addresses the issues of our low-income communities in New York City.
Thank you very much. Blasio, and Doyer. And while Bacio's coming up, I want to recognize that we have representatives from Councilmember Garodnick, from Public Advocate James, and from Senator Kruger.
Hi, my name is Fonty Newton. I'm president of the Coalition for a Livable Sky. The coalition believes that these two proposals have nothing to do with affordable housing. It allows high limits to be raised by 20 to 30%. It is the mayor's gift to developers. Both proposals, mere tweaking will not result in a plan that preserves the integrity of neighborhoods. The mayor's plans will undo the community's successful effort to rezone and downzone 51 blocks on the Upper West Side and impact negatively on our historic districts. How can the mayor offer these proposals when no serious study has been done on how these changes will affect our neighborhood's human scale and unique sense of place? There's more. I'll let
Thank you very much. Nancy Doyer, and then Community Board 4 Chair, Christine Murphy.
I don't know what exactly what to do. My name is Leslie Doyle. I'm co-president of an organization called Save Chelsea. And Save Chelsea vehemently opposes the zoning for quality and affordability proposal now going through the public review process. In Chelsea, existing affordable housing is currently constantly under attack for what has been appropriately dubbed the violence of overdevelopment. In the recent New York Times article in Chelsea, A Great Wealth Divide, reporter Mia Navarro explores the rapid growth and gentrification of Manhattan's Chelsea neighborhood. She writes that the area has undergone a dizzying economic transformation in the past 2 to 3 decades, with an influx of wealth affecting the residents of less means in both obvious and insidious ways. And that change shows no sign of slowing, adding that even now, today's Chelsea, the swath west of the Avenue of the Americas between 14th and 34th Streets, could be the poster neighborhood for what Bill de Blasio even now calls the tale of two cities. In addition to losing more and more affordable housing, Chelsea's famed historic fabric is also jeopardized. As the New York Landmark Conservancy points out, despite some changes to the initial plan, it was still upend hard-fought height limits and contextual zones with new buildings from 5 to 50 feet taller than currently allowed. Developers could simply build taller, market-rate units under the plan, and there is no guarantee of better quality or affordability. Contextual zones cover much of the Upper East Side, the West Sides of Manhattan, Greenwich Village, and the Lower East Side, and much of Brownstone, Brooklyn. They often overlap with historic districts. Architect and preservationist Alta Inman cautions that taller buildings require foundations that are typically deeper than their adjacent, shorter neighbors. Once again, the violence of overdevelopment literally endangers the critical foundations and aging infrastructure of old, unreinforced masonry buildings, of which there are scores in Chelsea. For all these reasons and more, Save Chelsea implores you to oppose the misguided and misnamed zoning for quality and affordability plan. Thank you.
Very much. Board 4.
of both proposals are to be allowed. They are either too timid, too generic, and not focused on preservation, the fastest way to maintain affordable housing. It is too generic because the beauty of New York is the diversity of its neighborhoods. This rezoning ignores the characteristics of the building stock and building envelopes that have been the subject of many careful recent zoning in each community. It is too timid because senior housing should be permanently affordable. The apartment should be all on site and it should be distributed over 80% of the floors with equal doors, exposures, finishes, and amenities. These are pictures that the developers today agree in recent negotiation. And there is a building loss of tens of apartment living families in the streets. What is the administration going to do about this? We are not in favor of the text as presented.
Thank you very much. We've been joined by Councilmember Levine, Mark Levine. Thank you very much. Councilmember Johnson, thank you very much. Councilmember Johnson, could we, like, this is your school. The heat is hot as hell in here. I just want to let you know. It's Rosie's district. Oh, it's hot. Oh. We're all put in for air conditioning. We would now like to hear from Councilmember Ben Kalos.
I'd like to note that I got my start testifying before Gale Brewer, so it's good to be back in those same shoes. Thank you, Borough President.
Move up the mic a little bit so we can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you, Borough President Brewer and community board members for your leadership on these land use matters. You are the voice of the people, and we are stronger together. And Councilmember Ben Kalos, that's at Ben Kalos on social media. I represent the Upper East Side, Midtown, East Roosevelt Island, and East Harlem. I grew up here, and I want to be able to afford to raise a family and grow old in this city. Residents are up in arms and protesting against superscrapers casting our public parks in shadow, and zoning for quality should amend the zoning code to protect our city's parkland from shadow. In addition, zoning for quality must mean amending the zoning code to stop developers from taking density that has been spread all over the city, all over a borough, all over a community district, and stacking it in one place through zoning lot mergers into a building that had never been constructed when the zoning code was originally drafted. We must protect the light and air of residential mid-blocks. Version of the original ZQA proposal that would have raised the height of an REB contextual district in the mid-block throughout Manhattan was something that was a concern. We joined together with Senator Liz Krueger and colleagues throughout the city, and they removed that. That needs to stay out of the ZQA. And unfortunately, the mid-block remains at risk under Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Plan, in which buildings in an R10A district on avenues receive a 20-foot increase to 235 feet, while those on side streets would receive a 40-foot increase, making buildings the same height regardless of where they are situated on a block. This should be fixed so that the mid-block is protected. I share the mayor's goal for construction of affordable housing, but believe we need to create mixed-income housing rather than looking only at a number of low-income units created. I'm concerned that the income inequality we're trying to fight will only be exacerbated as we incentivize the construction of housing for low-income and luxury units that will only continue to force the middle class from our city. Our city is already incentivizing construction of affordable housing, allowing developers to double and triple dip with increased density, tax relief, and subsidies. For giving additional height, we should be getting additional permanent affordable housing on site without a corridor, without a rich building, poor building. We should not let developers buy out of affordable housing by writing a check through payment in lieu of it as cash disappears and property is forever. Mandatory inclusionary housing, where a height increase is granted, must include additional housing for middle-class working families. Thank you again for having us. Thank you for listening to the people, and thank you for being our voice.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Wolf is the next speaker, and then Cynthia Bisman and David Marcastle. You'll have to figure that out. But Evelyn Wolf is next. Evelyn, right here behind you. And then I want to recognize we have a representative from Controller Scott Stringer's office. Thank you.
I work for an organization called Self-Help Community Services. I work for Self-Help Community Services, which is dedicated to maintaining the health, safety, and independence of seniors. and I'm also representing Live On New York, which is a coalition of nonprofits also working in the interest of preserving housing and opportunities for seniors. We have over 1,000 units in New York City. We built our first building in 1963. It's still standing. It looks great. Some of the original tenants who were there, believe it or not, one or two left. They're still in the building. We believe strongly that if senior housing particularly is built by nonprofits, it will remain in perpetuity for seniors. We have not sold any of our buildings. We do not intend to sell any of our buildings. And we strongly support the changes to the zoning to allow for more flexibility in the building of elderly housing, senior housing. We know it isn't perfect, but it is better than what we have. We have waiting lists that go 6 to 10 years. We have people who are on those waiting lists an inordinate amount of time. There is an absolutely desperate need for low-income, affordable housing for seniors, and anything that we can do to make the building of that housing more efficient and more flexible would be extremely helpful. It is very difficult to find land in New York to build any kind of housing, especially senior. It's very hard to build senior housing without subsidies. All of these issues are very, very critical to us, and we therefore do support the zoning change. I just want to add that our own philosophy is that people should be able to age in place with dignity and independence. We don't want people to have to go to nursing homes, assisted living facilities. Those are a lot more expensive than building affordable housing. And we believe in creating the services and environment in our buildings that will keep seniors active and willing and able to communicate and socialize as they age in place. So thank you very much.
I have a question, because this is more on the human services aspect than the bricks and mortar. But there is a discussion, because to the credit of the administration, as you suggest, they're talking about independent and then assisted living and then a nursing home kind of situation in one building. It's very common in the suburbs, but I don't think it's been done in the city. Is this a good idea, and how would you sort of structure it? We all know the 202 housing, which no longer, unfortunately, exists. But how would you structure one building with 3 different kinds of care?
Frankly, I don't think I would. I think it's a problem. First of all, it's a problem of financing it. It's difficult enough to finance senior housing. Financing nursing homes and assisted living facilities makes it even more complicated. When you start combining different types of programs and you're going to different sources for your financing, you could end up with 10, 12 different sources that will take you at least 5 or 6 years to get that built. Okay. So I would not support that, and I'm not sure that the residents that are in the nursing homes might appreciate it. I'm not sure that the independent seniors who are active and participating in all the activities that we provide would want that kind of environment.
My sentiments exactly. Cynthia and David, and then Mike Ernst. So we're gonna.
Oh, Mike. Now? Yes, better. I was born in the city in the mid-40s. No?
Now you got it. I'll talk right into the mic.
Okay. I was born in the city in the mid-40s and grew up in public housing. I have been back and forth from the city over these many decades and am horrified by some of the changes that have occurred. We talked about Chelsea, also in the West Village where we live now. I want to just be very brief. The current insatiable desire for living in Manhattan provides an excellent point in time to not cater to the developers. Yes. Stop. They want to build here, not in New Jersey. The city should be in charge, not the developers.
I'm David Hardcastle, and I lived before I moved to the West Village all over the United States and in Europe. And no one goes any place to see glass towers, except maybe Singapore or Shanghai. You come to New York because of what it is and what it has been. And I have to agree with my wife, at this point in our history, demand is on the side of the city, not on the side of the developer. We should not be subsidized, but we should be subsidized by the developers. And affordable housing is quite simple. 20% would be 20%, not 15, not 18, not 0, not someplace else. I've been college professor for 40 years, and that is very, very simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Clark, Society members. After that, Tim Doubleton. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Mike Ernst. I'm here on behalf of...
Mike, right up.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Municipal Art Society of New York. We're a 123-year-old organization that advocates for public policies, programs, and investments that ensure the livability of our city and its neighborhoods. We here think that there are a number of good things in these proposals, but that there also needs to be some changes. First off, with ZQN, we are encouraged that it does promote more senior housing in the city. New York City is expected to add over 360,000 seniors in the next 15 years. This proposal makes some needed changes that will help provide more affordable senior housing. We also support the reducing parking requirements for affordable housing. Minimum parking requirements for developers, build parking spaces that residents don't need, often at the expense of additional housing units. Eliminating these requirements for affordable developments is a smart change. And we also think that ZQA does some things with improving and making better streetscapes, especially in ground floor units. However, we think there are a number of changes that need to be made. All of these things come with trade-offs, namely in the form of increased height and bulk with new buildings. So we are concerned about increased height and bulk in contextual districts. Many neighborhoods obtain contextual zoning after years of negotiations with the city, and therefore should have more safe proposed changes. MAS recognizes the administration provides a more targeted approach, recommends that the administration provide a more targeted approach for contextual districts and not apply a one-size-fits-all approach. We're also concerned about increased height and bulk in historic districts. We have reservations about the current proposal as applies to historic districts and think further studies warranted. While new developments in historic districts are subject to review, the burden of regulating bulk and height should not fall solely on the Landmarks Preservation Commission. And finally, we think that the city can go further with eliminating parking requirements and apply it beyond just affordable housing to market housing as well. We were encouraged that during the scoping hearing, we asked the city to provide some more better graphics and maps, and thought that city planning did well with that, but there obviously is a lot of confusion about the details of the proposal and specifically about the real world impacts. On mandatory inclusionary housing, we support the idea and are encouraged that we think it will create housing that meets the needs of a broad range of city residents, and especially that creates permanent affordable units. However, we want to echo concerns stated elsewhere tonight, in particular about definitions of affordability. We think this proposal doesn't go far enough to meet the needs of very low-income residents, and we recommend that the city explore additional options to encourage the production of units for this demographic. We also think there are challenges with off-site affordable units, in particular how those units are maintained in perpetuity. I think there's a number of ways that that can be addressed, and we will post our full comments on our website. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Tim Doubleton, and then after that, it looks like James, is it Rodriguez from Goals?
It seems like only a few people here who think that these proposals are a good idea.
That's fine. Just talk up so we can hear you. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, yes. When I look at the numbers about the housing problem, when I look at the City Planning Commission's website, when I look at the Rent Control Guideline Board, it seems very clear to me that the number of reasons we don't have enough affordable housing is that we don't have enough housing, period. I appreciate that everybody doesn't like glass towers, but then you should find a way to legislate glass over brick. And I think it's a real issue when people argue for no changes at all in a city which has spent hundreds of years changing constantly. If we have 70,000 people moving through the city every year, and we're building just a tiny fraction of that housing, there's no way that housing is going to become more affordable in the city. So I think everyone has to step back and get used to the fact that if we want affordable housing, we have to accept a lot of change. We're going to have to accept more density. We're going to have to accept more height. And if you live in Chelsea and you don't want more height, well, then you have to understand that what you're doing is turning over the square footage that exists in Chelsea to the highest bidder. And then you are going to be the one causing the displacement, not the developers who are building, trying to build more density.
Quiet, please, quiet.
That's my opinion, and I frankly think that the math backs it up.
Thank you very much for coming, I appreciate it. James, and then next person is Josette Amado.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James Rodriguez. I'm a lifelong resident of the Lower East Side and Public Housing. I'm speaking on behalf of GOALS, the Lower East Side. We are a housing justice organization that's been working on the Lower East Side since 1977. Upon a careful review of the city zoning for quality and affordability zoning text, in collaboration with our members and stakeholders, GOALS has identified several key concerns that lead us to reject the current proposal. Some of these include affordability. ZQA states as one of its aims to promote affordable housing, but with affordability requirements set up to 80% of New York City's AMI, or nearly $70,000 for a family of four, these supposedly affordable units are out of range to the many working class and low-income New Yorkers and neighborhoods who need affordable housing the most. The city's proposed mandatory inclusionary housing program has similar shortcomings, addressing housing primarily at 60% AMI and above. Furthermore, percentage of units. Under the plan, just 20% of units are required to be affordable, resulting in the creation of largely majority market rate developments. While the current proposal may produce a relatively small percentage of affordable senior units and long-term care facilities, it comes in exchange for increased heights and FARs in developments that have a majority market rate. While we agree with the need to provide affordable housing and long-term care for New York City's growing senior population, ZQA does little to address the broader affordability housing crisis affecting New Yorkers across age groups. ZQA's reliance on the city's MIH program also raises several key concerns. Of note here is the potential for a double dip with the possibility for developers to use ZQA's required percentage of affordable housing to be counted towards the requirements mandated by MIH, resulting in only marginal increases in affordable units across both programs. On the subject of quality, ZQA's provisions to improve the quality of design of buildings, largely by raising height limits to accommodate maximum possible FAR, appears to do nothing to address the city's housing needs, and instead results in increased heights and zoning modification with no clear public benefit. Furthermore, there is little evidence to suggest that raising height limits or maximizing FAR would significantly encourage the production of affordable housing. Finally, the zoning changes proposed through ZQA would affect neighborhoods across the city, and in many instances, neighborhoods that have been working on their own community plans to implement their visions for affordable, livable neighborhoods into the future. ZQA's generalized one-size-fits-all approach changes would do little to consider the unique character of individual neighborhoods or the years of community planning undertaken in neighborhoods across the city. These concerns, among others that we've heard here tonight, suggest that the proposed zoning changes in the ZQA and MIH text do nothing towards the stated goals of quality and affordability, despite its generous bonuses for developers and market rate development. These are trade-offs that goals and the members on the Lower East Side reject, and it's on these grounds that we reject both of these zoning proposals.
Thank you very much. Josette Amado and then Ray Tirado, local laborer, local 79. We love Josette.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my name is Josette Amado, and I'm speaking on...
You've got to get real close to it, even closer.
And I'm speaking on behalf of the West End Preservation Society. WEPS appreciates the need for growth and affordable housing for New York City to remain viable in the 21st century. Our concern is that in an effort to speed ahead in the name of good intentions, missteps will be made and the cost too dear. These proposals offer a broad brush approach that we believe will negatively impact existing contextual districts and existing affordable housing, and therefore we cannot support these proposals as written. Both the MIH and the ZQA seek to make changes that will, in the abstract, improve conditions for affordability, senior housing, street wall interest, etc. All admirable goals. However, there is an alarming enormity to these proposals and a lack of guaranteed results. ZQA states changes would provide flexibility to regulations to facilitate development and improve quality. Yet there is no proven correlation between the two. Increasing a building envelope only guarantees a bigger building, not a beautifully designed one. Changes to height restrictions to smaller lots opens the door to the destruction of smaller buildings, which could result in the loss of affordable units. Couple that with the elimination of height restrictions for narrow streets, and you facilitated sliver buildings across the city. Should these buildings be comprised of 11 to 25 units, there will be no gain of affordable units within those sites. We are concerned with consequences of increasing height regulations throughout the city, but especially in historic districts. By increasing carefully agreed upon limits, streetscapes will be changed forever, eliminating years of dedicated work within these communities. Rooftop and rear yard additions will become a standard. At the same time, rear yard setback regulations will be eliminated. While the DCP acknowledges changes in historic districts will remain under the watchful eye of the LPC, there is no acknowledgement of the reality that this proposal will unduly burden the smallest of city agencies. In our neighborhoods on the Upper West Side, rent-regulated units still have a presence in our housing stock. Elimination of those units in order to create a new will be devastating to our residents. It is unlikely our neighborhoods will see any substantial affordable housing created under this proposal. The MIH allows for units to be created off-site, which is unrealistic in our area, or payment in lieu. This places the burden of managing the fund and creating this newly affordable housing back onto the city at a time when New York City continues to have difficulty maintaining the housing it already owns and operates. We would ask that no changes be made to the fabric of historic districts across the city, and that further review and changes needed to guarantee results these proposals seek to enact.
Thank you very much. Ray Toronto, and then Lourdes Camacho.
Okay, hi, I'm Ray Toronto. I'm from Local 39, and I'm also from Community Voices Bird. Now, there's a couple of things that a lot of these numbers that they band-aid out with the medium, it's not acceptable in East Harlem right now. We don't want it. We need for you to restart this. Because the numbers is going to displace a lot of residents, generation of residents that are living there, and they're going to move them out. The general money that's being made in East Harlem right now is at less than $23,000. The MIA and IM is at $51,000. So who's going to afford that? The people there right now are just surviving. I heard a contractor talk about 70,000 minimum wage in Manhattan. What are we going to do with people that are already living in Manhattan? Mayor Blasio, excuse me, his policy of the tale of two cities. He's got to let us know who he's with, the greedy or the needy. In short, I and the community vote no on mandatory inclusionary housing.
Thank you very much. Is that the position of Local 79 as well as Community Voices Heard?
Well, Local 79 wants to help the community and are willing to work with the community with an open apprenticeship program to supply jobs for that community to help it pick up that medium that they're at.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate it. Lourdes? And And after that is Trevor Stewart.
Hi, my name is Lourdes Camacho. I'm a resident of Parks and Houses. I agree with Senator Tirado here, and I thank you all, Ms. Gale, and all the council members for being here tonight. I just have a quick question. Being that I'm from West 62nd Street, Amsterdam Houses, I just got the new housing list for affordable housing, and there's an apartment here building on West 61st Street, West Side of Manhattan. Studio, 85,000, one bedroom, 91,000, and also Lower East Side, residents in the Lower East Side who I know, the same thing. Avenue D, Lower East Side, one bedroom, 72,000. How can you expect seniors who live on a steady income next year, they're going to get a raise in Social Security to survive? And they want to stay in their own neighborhood because that's what the only thing they know. If we move them, they're going to die. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Trevor Stewart, and then Anita Isola.
Actually, Andrew would like Andrew and
Right.
Good evening. My name is Trevor Stewart. I'm a trustee of the Williamsburg Society for Historic Preservation. DQA is premised on several false and inaccurate assumptions and assertions. First, it's not the job of zoning to ensure that every plot of land can be developed to the maximum FAR in every case. Zoning also protects light and air and neighborhood character. The zoning variance process allows those who truly prove that they cannot make a reasonable return on their property to be relieved of zoning restrictions and then only to the minimum degree necessary. That said, city planners claim that existing contextual zoning doesn't allow developments to reach their full FAR without cramped proportions or with the inclusion of 20% additional affordable housing is simply wrong. Aside from the real-life examples in our submission provide refuting this, the DCP claim is based on an analysis they conducted exclusively using interior lots on narrow streets. Such lots have the most restrictive setback and lot coverage requirements and thus are hardly representative of all sites with DQA in effect. What's more, inclusionary zones where 80-20 developments go are almost always enacted in Manhattan on wide streets and narrow lots, which have much more generous rules for stacking the zoning bulk, thus making DCP's analysis of little or no applicability. Similarly, the Citizens Housing Planning Council report building envelope conundrum has frequently been cited as evidence that current contextual rules are too restrictive and do not allow utilization of full FAR. What we've discovered, however, is that the examples used in the report are almost exclusively 100% affordable housing developments, not the 80-20 or 100% market rate developments to which DQA's rules will apply. In fact, 100% housing developments, affordable housing developments have very different needs, configurations and layouts than 80-20 or 100% market rate developments. And the extrapolation that changes need for one kind of development to also need for others is simply false. There may well be accommodations which are appropriate to make for 100% affordable developments. That does not necessarily make them worthwhile trade-offs for 80-20 or 100% market rate developments. And 100% affordable developments can often be categorized as community facilities rather than residential developments, and thus governed by an entirely different set of zoning rules than those which DQA covers. So here as well, the comparison is false and misleading. For all these reasons, we urge you to reject zoning for quality and affordability, which will actually achieve neither purported goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Andrew Berman, who's the Executive Director of GBSHP, and he can explain what that great work that he does in Greenwich Village, and then Anita.
Thank you very much. We have a more detailed written submission, but I and the other members will be reading parts of it. GBSHP urges you to oppose all provisions of the Zoning for Quality and Affordability proposal, which would increase height limits for new residential construction throughout our neighborhoods and eliminate restrictions on rear yard incursions. ZQA would undo years of hard work by communities throughout the city, which in many cases fought hard for the height limits it would roll back. Often those height limits were not nearly as restrictive as communities sought, but they accepted them and often had to accept upzonings or increases in allowable development at nearby locations to balance out those restrictions. Now those careful compromises are being gutted with little or no payoff in terms of to the public in terms of improvements in either quality or affordability. ZQA's proposed changes to allowable building heights offer little or nothing in return in terms of quality of design and affordability. Its one-size-fits-all approach, changing zoning rules throughout the city, regardless of local conditions or needs, disempowers communities, eliminates zoning options, and sidesteps traditional procedures requiring local analysis of impacts and local consultation in order to take effect. Rather than expanding the zoning toolbox to create more varied options, ZQA limits them by eliminating current rules and retroactively and prospectively replacing them with new ones. Because ZQA does not look at conditions on a neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis as an individual ULURP would, there is no detailed analysis of the effect of proposed changes on local areas. It takes away from local communities, their council member, their community board, and their borough president the leverage over the rezoning process which an individual local rezoning offers. The height limit changes called for in ZQA would have a striking effect on many communities. For example, in the East Village, which now has 8-foot height limits, ZQA would increase the height limits by 31% to 105 feet. On many of those blocks, the existing built form averages 40 to 50 feet, and thus the new height limits would result in buildings twice the height of most of their neighbors or more, a dramatic difference. The proposal could be amended so its provisions became new zoning rules or categories which are added to the existing text, rather than replacing the existing text. Thus, these provisions would only take effect if mapped in the future through individual ULURP actions requiring local analysis of impacts and allowing increased local leverage and input over the outcome. Barring such a change, we urge you to recommend denial of the elements of ZQA, which I and my fellow speakers will honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you for all your hard work. Anita Isola, and after that is Bill Borat. Thank you very much. Right.
Good evening, Borough President Anita Isola. I'm continuing the testimony of the Williamsburg Society for Historic Preservation. We strongly urge you to reject the proposed 5 to 10 foot increases in allowable height for market rate developments in contextual zones, the 5 to 20 foot increases for quality housing and market rate developments, the up to 25 or more foot height increases for the 2080 developments in inclusory contextual zones, and the large bulk and height increases for market rate developments which include a fraction for the senior affordable housing. The city's premise that increasing height limits will increase the quality of market rate developments is simply false. As the materials that we have submitted show, many such developments already have an enormous ground floor and floor-to-ceiling heights the city claims the current height limits don't allow. The ZQA would offer increased height to developments regardless of whether or not they set back their facades more or add more depth, thus removing the supposed benefit that's supposed to come from increasing the height. We have no objections to allowing a greater variation in depth of facades for contextual zones. We don't believe adding height to the buildings is necessary or worthwhile. City planning also claims that the current height limits prevent the inclusion of affordable housing for new developments. This actually is belied by the facts. As shown by our submissions, many developments in our inclusionary zones have included 20% affordable housing with generous ground floor and ground-to-ceiling heights, utilizing full FAR. Others have chosen not to include the affordable units, even when there was more than enough room for the existing contextual envelopes to do so. This illustrates it's not the height limits, but the voluntary nature of the program, the bureaucracy involved in the complexity of including affordable and market rate units in one development which inhibits participation. None of these true inhibiting factors would be changed by ZQA. Thus, increasing height limits would get us taller buildings, but no additional affordable housing. The generous bulk and height increases for senior affordable housing also concerns our association. These will actually be developments which are 80% market rate developments, with just 20% of the units reserved for senior affordable housing for as little as 30 years. Given the size and the scale of the proposed increases and the effect they'll have on their surroundings, this seems like a very large giveaway for the relatively modest return. Finally, the elimination of sliver law protections and restrictions on rear yard incursions should be eliminated. These provisions are necessary to maintain healthy, well-designed neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bill, you're next, Borat, and then George James.
Good evening, everybody.
Yep, just put it right next to your...
My name is Bill Borak, and I'm the president of the Council of Chelsea Block Associations, a coalition of 15 block associations covering 25 blocks in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. Our member block associations strive to improve the quality of life for those who live in, for those who work in, and for those who visit our community. We urge you to oppose the zoning for quality and affordability plan. For years, residents of our community worked hard to get zoning regulations to mitigate problems associated with overdevelopment, such as the heights of buildings, limiting them, protecting the views of our West Side waterfront, keeping green and open spaces, obtaining true permanent affordable housing for low-income as well as working-class, middle-income residents, families, protecting the mom-and-pop stores, and keeping our communities integrated racially and economically. Unfortunately, we are losing the character of our neighborhoods, not only in Chelsea, but all over the city. Luxury, concrete, and glass towers of Babel are rising up on our streets with the consequences that residents and small businesses are being forced to leave neighborhoods they have helped to establish because of these unwanted negative changes. Change and development is not an absolute bad thing. We are not NIMBYs, not in our backyard people, as some may characterize our opposition positions. However, when misguided efforts are proposed to change the good that so many have fought to achieve for the community, this is not good. This is bad. For this hearing, our testimony is not going to mention the zoning aspects of the mayor's plan. Others will be doing it. One point we do want to make is that in regard to achieving more affordable housing, a lot more needs to be done by City Hall and by city agencies to protect the residents citywide who are being forced out of their apartments and their regulated affordable housing units by far too many bad landlords and developers. These bad apples in our city that some call the Big Apple file forced construction applications with the Department of Buildings, claiming that there are no tenants, no regulated tenants in unit buildings, thereby avoiding to have to provide the required tenant protection plan. Thousands and thousands of affordable housing units already exist, but are being lost. Those in the city's inventory need to be fixed and upgraded and made available for use. In addition, the tenants in affordable rent-regulated unit buildings need to be protected from the illegal and harassing activities of the bad apples who are forcing them out of their homes with the consequence that affordable housing stock is being devastated and reduced. Thank you for allowing me to speak and to work on my
George, James, and then Andrea Goodwin from New York Landmarks Conservancy.
Thank you. My name is George James, and I'm an urban planner, and I've been assisting Community Board 11 community organizations in their understanding of ZQA. Tonight, however, I speak for myself. The scope of work for ZQA's environmental review tells us one of the reasons it changes the building envelope is to accommodate new construction practices, including block and planning and modular construction, which reduce construction costs and thereby making housing more affordable. These technologies reduce costs by eliminating workers from the construction site, If the change is successful and results in lower construction costs, there is a potential for a significant socioeconomic impact. And that impact needs to be studied and disclosed. Unfortunately, the EIS never studies ZQA's impact on the construction industry, even though the tech manual tells us that, quote, if the project is expected to affect conditions within a specific industry, an assessment is appropriate. Reducing the cost to make housing more affordable is a laudable goal, but cost reduction does not occur in a vacuum. With any reduction of costs, there is also a corresponding reduction in economic activity, which is often someone's job. The fact that the EIS does not support the proposal's impact on the construction industry is a mistake, and it's a mistake that needs to be corrected. To be clear, as a planner, I think ZQA has many long overdue amendments to the zoning. But if we take our environmental review process seriously, then the city needs to study the proposal's impact on the construction industry and disclose what those impacts are so that we can all make better informed decisions.
And those are different perspectives, and I appreciate that very much. Andrea, and then Ava Farkas from Met Council on Housing. And I want to thank Andrea Goodwin from New York Landmarks Conservancy for all of her hard work on many projects.
Good evening, Borough President Brewer. Thanks to you and your staff for your attention to this issue and for tonight's meeting. I'm Andrea Goldman, speaking on behalf of the Landmarks Conservancy in regards to ZQA. When City Planning issued ZQA, we had questions. The proposal's justification, the impact on historic districts, the paucity of information, and the late and quick public review of this vast citywide plan. We thank Chair Weisbrod and his staff for speaking with us, issuing community profiles, and providing community briefings, but we're still dismayed by the substance of ZQA and its review process. This massive plan has a one-size-fits-all approach for each of New York's unique communities. It doesn't guarantee an increase in affordable housing, but will encourage new market rate units. There's no strong rationale for alterations to the quality housing regulations. As these are significant sets of changes that will be realized very differently across the city, it's not clear why they're forced together in one proposal. Before ZQA goes any further, there needs to be an analysis of the expected numbers of new market rate units, new affordable units, and of existing stabilized and affordable units that could be lost to demolition. ZQA overturns basic planning principles. Communities with contextual zoning worked over years, ensuring that plans tailored to their neighborhoods garnered consensus, often through compromise. Homeowners thought that they had certainty in terms of future development. ZQA threatens that work and abandons the agreements forged with the city. Light and air used to be valued. Rear yards provided open space, and grass helped alleviate stormwater runoff. Now they're set to be filled in so developers can maximize FAR. ZQA reverses the sliver law and erases the distinction between narrow and wide streets. The system of FAR limits results in a cap. Under ZQA, it's an entitlement. The EIS states that this proposal will have no impact on historic resources since it's not expected to induce development, but the whole intent is to increase development. ZQA will affect city-designated historic districts, state and national register districts, and areas under study for designation. It would put undue pressure on LPC to approve out-of-scale additions and new construction in historic districts with contextual zoning. This would negate the protections of landmark designation and add pressure to slow down future designations. Finally, why is ZQA, with all of its overlapping provisions and potential for unintended consequences, receiving less than the full ULURP review that can be required for rezoning a neighborhood or even more lots? Why is each community board required to rush through its evaluation in a few weeks when a comprehensive proposal, such as the 197A plan, entails dozens of meetings, often over several years? If this process is not a standard ULURP, we ask the Borough Presidents and City Council to set a longer, more appropriate time frame for review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Ava Farkas from Met Council on Housing, and then Mary Crosby from Met Council on Housing, and then Kate Wood, who's been sitting very patiently from Landmark West.
Thank you, Ms. Borough President. Met Council on Housing is a tenants' rights organization. We've been around since 1959, and we fight for stronger rent regulation laws, and we fight for affordable housing for everyone in the city. We recommend that you issue a no vote on mixed inclusionary housing for the following reasons. It's not really affordable to the New Yorkers who need it most. As many people have already said, almost half of New Yorkers are earning less than 60% of AMI. And with 60% being the lowest option, it excludes almost half of the New Yorkers who need affordable housing. Inwood and East Harlem, I'm from Inwood, which are two of the neighborhoods in Manhattan that are slated to be rezoned, where mixed inclusionary housing would then become the options available to them. The AMI in Inwood is 48%, and the AMI in East Harlem is only 37%. Option 3 at 120% AMI and rents of $2,400 is market rate housing. Why would we be trading density and land rezoning for housing that would be built anyway at market rate rents? Another issue is that it doesn't get deeper affordability than 421A. All of these developments that will be constructed, all housing construction, new housing construction, gets the 421A tax abatement as of right. They get a 35-year tax abatement. And under 421A, they're required to do percentages of affordable housing, which are very similar to the percentages required under under mandatory inclusionary housing. In addition, it's not going to create good union jobs. And this is another issue that the previous speaker brought up. There should be a real concern and a real examination about what this modular prefab construction is going to do to workers on construction sites. And beyond that, just what are the impacts of having largely non-union housing built? What are the consequences for worker safety, for living wages, and for economic communities? So we know that you also have a lot of influence in this process and that you can issue some recommendations along with your vote. So this is what we would suggest. There should be a 30% AMI option. There should be an option that includes 50% affordable housing. Of an entire building, at least 50% of the units should be affordable. And option 3 should be completely removed from the plan. It doesn't make any sense. We would also like you to support the real affordability for all, RAFA's plan. Sure. We'd like you to support RAFA's plan for a density bonus, which, in contrast to MIH, would create housing for people at lower AMIs and would create a greater percentage of affordable housing.
Thank you very much. Mary Carlton, and then Kate Wood. And then I need more here.
You're okay, just how I do it. Is it okay? No, really, yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Borough President Brewer, for the opportunity to speak on this important subject tonight. Thank you for your long-standing support for tenants, rent law protections, and affordable housing. My name is Mary Crosby, and I'm speaking tonight as a housing advocate. I'm also a volunteer with Met Council. This rezoning plan is aimed at creating and preserving affordable housing. And according to the press release, it's intended to promote economic diversity and meet new housing needs. It's an enabling legislation that would establish a framework that would be applied throughout New York City. Recently, locals at East Harlem workshop named 3 things they were looking for: truly affordable housing, protection of open spaces such as gardens, and support for mom and pop businesses in the neighborhood. Some even called for all new construction to be fully made up of affordable units. That's 100%, because this is what's actually needed. and rental units priced so that citizens currently living in the neighborhood will actually be able to afford to live in the new buildings being planned and developed. Otherwise, why should they undergo all the upheaval of development and construction? I agree. The development of mixed-income buildings can lead to the unintended consequences of pushing up rents in the general area, both because the market rate units will be too high for the area, and because most of the affordable units will also be beyond the reach of most current residents. This is the main problem with the proposed rezoning plan. Apart from the affordable housing being unaffordable, the city faces loss of currently existing affordable housing in these neighborhoods. And my concern is that the zoning changes would only accelerate this loss of rent-regulated housing. This is what's happened after rezoning of 125th Street in Harlem and around Brooklyn's Fulton Mall and also in Chelsea. Okay, I was a long-term resident in Chelsea, and I went through almost 40 years there, and I saw many ways of gentrification and upgrades in the neighborhood without any benefit of zoning changes. I moved into a rent-stabilized studio in Chelsea in 1976 when the neighborhood was a very diverse community and still included garment-centered businesses and manufacturing and a large Latino ethnic component. It was a diverse mix and a healthy mix of all economic levels, but most importantly, it had a robust and healthy middle class. Over the years, there were waves of gentrification, and so I already mentioned that. And these changes were not pain-free, but the neighborhood gradually improved. And Chelsea, wrap up. Okay, thank you. And Chelsea, okay, Chelsea is wonderful. Okay, hey, Chelsea. Okay. I'm going to move on to another important point and then wrap up. I want to call your attention to a recent article in the Wall Street Journal entitled "Lawsuit Says Manhattan Real Estate Was Used to Launder Money." Within the last year or so, a number of investigative reports have appeared in the press exposing vast amounts of foreign capital and unregulated cash pouring into the real estate market. This influx of unregulated cash drives up prices, encourages development for investment purposes only, and does not provide living space for real people who actually live in the city. There's no legal requirement that someone actually reside in this.
Mary, you really do need to wrap up, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, this is a big problem. I have references on it if anyone is interested. And to wrap up, I encourage you to send the plan back to the table, and I know we can do better.
Thank you very much. Kate Wood, and then Howard Urod.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm Kate Wood from Landmark West, and thank you so much to Manhattan Borough President Gale Brewer and her excellent staff. And what can I add to the testimony that's gone before, except to say that Landmark West is strongly opposed to the so-called zoning for quality and affordability and mandatory inclusionary housing. We base our position in part on a recent study of the two proposals performed at our request by BFJ Planning, who are experts with long-standing expertise in these issues. We've also received feedback from planners at the Pratt Institute and Columbia University. We submit for the record a November 2nd, 2015 memo outlining preliminary areas of concern. Our starting focus was how these proposals related to Manhattan's Upper West Side, a neighborhood that BFJ finds will be more greatly impacted by these proposals than others. ZQA in particular seems geared towards unlocking the development potential of neighborhoods like ours, where residents have worked for decades to secure sound planning policies, including contextual zoning and historic district designation, to balance growth. BFJ points out additional areas of concern with negative implications for communities across the city. A fundamental question includes, why is the administration not pursuing a more deliberative process for a zoning initiative that purports to address the important issue of creating affordable housing? A single project would be subjected to far more wide-ranging public review than what has been billed by the administration as the most ambitious affordable housing plan in the nation. Further, there's no legal or legislative requirement that the ZQA and the NIH proposals be passed together as a total package. Both proposals are very problematic, but if the ZQA height increases were enacted without the MIH affordable housing provisions, which could happen, which the developers would like to have happen, any hope of affordability would vanish. BFJ also expresses concern that ZQA will incentivize the demolition of buildings that now provide affordable housing. Additionally, BFJ points out the lack of any comprehensive planning on the city's part. The one-size-fits-all zoning text amendments seem to be the sum total of the planning that has been done. Finally, it's important to remember that zoning is intended to control development so as to protect the public interest. ZQA proposes to significantly loosen bulk controls to allegedly allow minor amounts of FAR to be fully exploited, legitimizing the view that FAR is an entitlement instead of a limit on zoning floor area. FAR is not an entitlement. Overemphasis on FAR sets up a destructive collision course between zoning and other land use management tools such as landmarks preservation. This is not planning. Our city is not for sale.
Thank you very much. Howard, Nora, Howard, and then Linda Corliss.
Good evening, Madam Borough President Howard Earl for the Four Borough Neighborhood Alliance, which is a constituent organization of the new Coalition for a Human Scale New York. Just to say very, very briefly that, of course, it is the height and bulk restrictions, lack of restriction, rather, in the historic districts and the contextual districts that is of special concern for our organizations. And as already outlined in great detail in the Goodwin, Wood, Berman, Luton, and Amato participations. I just want to say for myself that it would be quite obvious that the plans are, for better or worse, developer giveaways masquerading as public policy. Also for myself that, as is obvious at the meeting tonight, there are enough good people paying enough attention, and those people are going to continue to pay attention as campaign season 17 comes around.
Thank you. Linda Corliss, and then Lynn Ellsworth. Linda?
I would like to thank our Honorable Borough President Gale Brewer for letting me testify today. I live in East Harlem, and I went to the meeting that Community Board 11 had on October 29th. Everyone there opposes rezoning. Gentrification is not going to really do anything for the people that live in East Harlem. They'll be putting buildings everywhere. However, they will not be affordable to the people that live there. So I would like you to consider voting against rezoning, and we would really appreciate that. And as a matter of fact, there's going to be a community board meeting on the 23rd, and they will be deciding insofar as this rezoning. I'm against it, and at the meeting that we had on October 29th, everyone over there was against it. So I just want to say thank you very much, and we don't want rezoning in East Harlem.
And introduce yourself again, so if you can say your name at the beginning.
My name is Linda, L-I-N-D-A, Porcellis, C-O-R-C-E-L-L-E-S, Alvarez.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Lynn Ellsworth.
Hi, I'm Lynn Ellsworth. I'm the chair of a neighborhood organization called Tribeca Trust. And I'm also here as one of the founding activists, I guess, with the coalition called New Yorkers for a Human Scale City. But I'm speaking here with my Tribeca Trust hat. Tribeca Trust is opposed to the zoning for quality and affordability and MIH for these reasons. First, as an all-volunteer organization, we have not had the time to thoroughly study all 600 pages of these proposals, which includes the recent BA economic study, which I have reviewed and sent separate commentary to the Borough President's office. So given the complexity of the issue, we need more time to both raise the funds to hire independent advice. We want to visually model the exact impact that this proposal would have on our neighborhood. Our request to city planning for this resource was ignored. Second, zoning reform we feel is needed, but our idea of zoning reform is so profoundly different than the one that the city is proposing that we wonder how to proceed. Unlike the representatives of big real estate who had deep access to Chair Weisbrot and his staff, as well as to the mayor, we have had no access to promote any alternative policy regime about affordable housing. A real democracy would not be operating this way. Third, there are elements in this proposal that we like, such as giving owners of small houses in the less dense outer boroughs the right to expand their homes by 20% for the construction of small rental units, also known as granny flats. But there are elements we don't like, such as why then tell the same owners of these houses that they must provide parking spaces for the renters of these granny flats. This is a bad idea that undoes one good thing by making another problem worse. This example for us makes it clear that the one-size-fits-all critique of ZQA is correct. Fourth, the conceptual framework ignores the idea of building affordable housing in the less dense, transport-starved areas of our city and close suburbs where land and building costs are cheaper. This is quite clear from the economic study that BA did for city planning. It ignores the obvious policy imperative of providing or improving public transport infrastructure to those areas. Fifth reason is that 57% of residents in Tribeca who voted in the last election in our neighborhood stood up loud and clear for a downzoning of our area, as well as an expansion of our historic district. And the exact area for which we have requested expansion has a pink zone for city planning for the upzoning. We want to weaken the incentives that developers now have to tear down unprotected historic fabric. That fabric now in Tribeca is filled with loft-log, rent-stabilized tenants, 142 or less count, who are being evicted as we speak. Those existing affordable units will not be replaced, and our petitions have been ignored in this matter.
Can you wrap up?
Yes. We feel that this proposal provides clear incentives to destroy historic fabric and build towers 20 stories high in the densest part of our city, areas that need density the least, and it ignores the low-dense outlying areas of our city. It gives developers windfall profits into doing so by letting them privatize public air, light, and views. This is a giveaway to our developers, and we hope you turn it down.
Thank you very much. Joe Recicia, who's a member of Community Board 4, and who, as a professional, actually builds affordable housing. After that, Eileen Herman from Tribeca Trust also.
I'm Joe Recicia, representing Community Board 4 and the portrait of housing.
Put it right up so people can hear you, Joe Recicia. And don't talk too fast, because then nobody will hear you.
Is that better now?
Yes.
Okay. So first point, developers have come to our board over the last couple of years to discuss mandatory inclusionary housing, and in fact have said they are willing to put 30% affordability as opposed to 25%. So we feel that the development community on the west side, some of the largest developers in the city, they feel economically, in Manhattan, 30% affordability is possible at a range of incomes. The second thing I want to speak to that this proposal is silent on, in my age, is economic integration. Today, 50% of the floors, 65% of the floors can be used for affordable housing, that's distributor units. In the new proposal, that has decreased to 50% of the floors. Community Board 4 has frequently negotiated 80% of the floors where affordable units are distributed out. This proposal creates not a poor door, but a poor floor. It pushes people to lower floors, and that is not appropriate. Second, it does not speak to equal access to building amenities. Large buildings are built, and nothing in this proposal says that everyone, irregardless of income, should have the same access to amenities. That must be included here. The biggest problem that you hear over and over tonight is one size fits all. It is impossible in the city of our scope and diversity. One size does not fit all. If people in East Harlem feel they need 30% of AMI for affordability, someone in Jamaica or someone in Sheepshead Bay or in the Middle West Side of Manhattan, Hell's Kitchen and Clinton, our concern is getting higher levels of affordability because we have people who are excluded. Of our neighborhood, there were 2,461 units built of affordable housing. 93% of those in the past 10 years have been for people making less than 60% of AMI. We have people who make between 60 to 80 or 100% of AMI, they're excluded. So we call for a broad range of options that is tailored by neighborhood, as opposed to just one size fits all for the city. In the cases where you have this payment in lieu, well, it's not a great idea, but if it has to be done, there should be a public process how the funds are used. Our big concern is that, in fact, there is housing that is built and a contribution made, and there is no process. It should be governed by consultation with the community board, the borough president, and the local council member. Specifically on zoning and equality, so our board is voting in favor of MIH with major changes, only if there are major changes. On the zoning equality, we are voting against it unless there are major changes made. And the biggest issue for tonight is the complete lack of sensitivity to contextual districts. We have all for the past decades fought for contextual districts. This would truly just obviate the whole reason. But also we notice it's not just the height, but it's the street walls that are being changed in this process. In R8A districts, which are many of our districts are, the street walls are being increased from 60 to 80 feet up to 100 feet. And as Andrew Berman said, the built environment sometimes is 50 to 60 feet or 40 feet. So we're talking about a 50 to 40% increase. That's the facts on the ground. The last piece is, in ZQA, besides many of the things that we'll give you in our resolution, is increased bulk for affordable senior housing. If there is an increase in bulk that is permanent, then the affordability of that senior housing must be permanent. It makes us crazy to think that just because you're building senior housing that's affordable for a 30-year period, and then you choose afterward, as we see with many Mitchell Obamas, other kinds of subsidized developments, you opt out, you get to keep the bulk but not the affordability. So we have to be talking about it.
Thank you very much. Eileen Herman, and then Maureen Kurtz, who's Friends of South Bay Seaport. Yep. Talk loud.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is very short, it's just more like an anecdote anyway. Mayor Blasio says he will work with all communities to keep our city livable and affordable and to protect what makes our neighborhoods unique. Buildings are going up where they don't belong, and there is no indication that they will be affordable. There are many buildings in Tribeca that have not yet been landmarked and are in threat of being demolished. If Tribeca is not rezoned, this would give the real estate developers a chance to build another enormous building that would continue to groom the scale and character of our unique neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Maureen Kurtz, and then Kirsten Fidos.
Good evening, President Brewer. It's very nice to be here with all of you. My name is Maureen Coates. I'm with the Friends of the South Street Seaport. For those of you who have not heard, this November, the Howard Hughes Corporation, the developer planning to put a residential tower smack dab in the middle of the historic district, withdrew those plans. Not coincidentally, in October, the Friends of the South Street Seaport received a comprehensive letter from the Department of the Army, that's the United States Army, in response to our inquiries regarding due process and transparency that made clear the planned tower would be subject to what is not lovingly referred to as full public interest review under the Code of Federal Regulations. Now, I know how hard President Brewer has worked on this issue, and we have worked cooperatively with you. We are happy that the federal government was willing to participate with us, but we're also a little bit sad that it took the federal government to get these kinds of due process requirements. The September Environmental Impact Assessment Scoping document for these two major pieces of zoning change states that as a result of the additional height modified building footprint outcomes, following environmental impacts are listed as expected: shadows, historic and cultural resource impacts, urban design and visual resource impacts, natural resources, hazardous material, noise, air quality, and the same for density impacts. I don't know why, but we always seem to forget that environmental impact analysis and historic preservation consultation come first. that due process and transparency require that those analytic models, those data elements, those assessments be done prior to the point in time when changes to the law are then contemplated and considered by legislatures, borough presidents, and governors. There are 929 nationally registered historic places in the city of New York. There are 33,000 buildings inside of 114 historic districts and 20 historic district extensions. There are 1,300 separately listed landmarks. I don't know how we can be evaluating this until we know what will happen to these assets and these resources and the human assets and the human resources that are equally affected. So it is the position of the Friends of the South Street Seaport that much like our issues at South Street, the ZQA should not be reviewed or considered by decision-making bodies until the full environmental analysis, not a work plan, including and especially the historic preservation consultation, and I would go so far as to say that the state should be involved.
You need to wrap up. Thank you.
Is completed and available to the public as well as decision makers like yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kirsten Diego and then Monica Witherspoon. There's 4.
Thank you, President Brewer. My name is Kirsten Theodos. I live on East 14th Street in Manhattan. I find the ZQA proposal and how it will directly impact my East Village neighborhood extremely disconcerting. Height limits in the East Village were established and protected back in 2008 to preserve the architectural character and history of the neighborhood. In no way would an increased height limit progress the architectural continuity of a village. A rezoning change that would allow such height increases is an assault on the cultural heritage of the community. I am also deeply disturbed by not only the proposal to rezone my community in one swoop without taking into account the individual merits of specific blocks within the East Village, but I'm even more disturbed by the fictitious pretense that such height increases would create affordable housing. Despite what is being proposed, it has not been shown that the increased building height limits will create affordable housing, similar to the erroneous claim that historic districts prevent affordable housing, both of which originated from the Real Estate Board of New York. Let's be crystal clear about this. This is not about affordable housing. Just like banning horses in Central Park isn't about animal rights, just like decalendaring over 100 buildings to be designated as landmarks isn't about clearing the docket for the Landmark Preservation Commission. This is about one thing and one thing only: perpetuating an aggressive land grab situation that will secure windfall profits for landlords and developers. We are losing our lands, our libraries, our long-established mom and pops, our historic buildings, and the cultural character of New York City that makes New York City, New York City. And the Real Estate Board of New York has its hands in all of it. Decimating the architectural context of the East Village on a bogus claim that will create affordable housing is simply unacceptable. History and character will be destroyed and sunlight will be stolen. Excuse me. If we are going to have a serious discussion about permanently changing the landscape of New York City, then we need to be honest about what is at stake here, and we need to be honest about who will actually benefit from this rezoning proposal.
Monica? Is there a Monica here? Nope. Okay, then Rachel Levy.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Levy, and I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of the Upper East Side Historic Districts. Since our founding in 1982, Friends has worked to preserve the livability and sense of place of the diverse neighborhoods that comprise the Upper East Side. This concern for neighborhood preservation necessitates sound planning as a vital tool of balanced urban development. We've studied the neighborhood closely and made some recommendations for neighborhood preservation in a study which we introduced to a public forum in October. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with the Borough President and our other elected officials as we continue to evaluate this proposal. We, of course, support the goals of quality and affordability. Approximately 38% of parcels on the Upper East Side contain some form of affordable units, and preservation of these units is critical in the maintenance of this area's affordability. Between 2007 and 2014, Community Board 8 saw a net loss of 26% of affordable units compared to a loss of 6% citywide. During that period, nearly 1,600 buildings lost rent-stabilized apartments. And of those, 70% were located east of 3rd Avenue, illustrating the alarming loss of affordability in our area. The city's goal is necessary if we expect to sustain a livable city for the future, but we question whether the proposed text amendment will actually produce a net gain of affordable housing when balanced with the loss of affordable units to redevelopment. Any plan conceived to spur the construction of affordable housing should take into account the replacement of one existing unit for one new unit. Otherwise, our neighborhoods will suffer a further loss, and we believe that the text as written does not address this issue. We are grateful to the city for removing RDB from the text amendment, but proposed height and density increases remain concerning and threaten to change the context of our neighborhoods. We also believe that the removal of the slipper law compounds the risk of out-of-scale development and should be retained. Friends supports balanced growth, but the effects of this far-reaching proposal have not been sufficiently studied. Absent thoughtful consideration by city planning of each neighborhood's unique qualities and modeling of all new building prototypes on all types of blocks throughout the city, Friends cannot support the ZQA text amendment, and we urge you to do the same.
Thank you. Wilbur was here from the Victorian Society, and then after that will be Margaret Julie Finch. Is Hilda here? Oh, sure.
I'm Hilda Revere, President of the Victorian Society of New York, addressing zoning for quality and affordability. The Victorian Society in America was founded in 1966 upon the advice of Sir Nicholas Presner to several New Yorkers attending England's Avenue Summer School. He cautioned that the U.S. was in danger of losing its remnants of 19th century architecture. Victorian Society of New York, the founding chapter of the national organization, works to preserve the area's architecture of the 19th and early 20th centuries. The sweeping upzoning that is being proposed would endanger many of the structures we strive to protect. It would drastically change the character of our streetscapes and neighborhoods. I've heard tourists comment in surprise when they come upon Chelsea's brownstone blocks. For those of us who live in the city, upzoning would impact our quality of life by allowing light and air to be blocked and by changing density. New York City has developed and evolved over 4 centuries, sometimes haphazardly. Zoning legislation was first enacted in 1916 in large measure to protect light and air and to ensure orderly development. Contextual zoning came into being about 1990 to ensure that construction was sympathetic to earlier buildings. The proposed rezoning would permit an important element of contextual zoning to be eliminated by permitting higher structures. Additionally, compromising rear yard requirements would result in slum conditions like those of more than a century ago that led to adoption of the current standards. Taller buildings bring added problems. Typically, they require deeper foundations than adjacent smaller buildings, and needed underpinning is risky. Shadows cast by tall buildings should be vigorously studied before permits are granted because they affect neighboring buildings and trees. In deciding whether to adopt the rezoning proposal, city officials should consider the disastrous results of urban renewal that began in the 1950s and left us with gaping holes in the cityscape. The damage was enormous and not easily repaired. To make a rational decision, officials should also obtain estimates of how many units of affordable housing currently exist in buildings that might be demolished or renovated into upscale apartments.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Martha Julie Finch and then Jean Standish.
Hi, Mark. I'm Julianne Finch. I'm speaking for Friends of Lamartine Place Historic District, where we have landmarked an underground railroad building on 29th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue in Manhattan. We are against the zoning plan and the mandatory inclusionary housing of the mayor and the city planning commission. This is a ruse to give developers what they want. More profits, more airspace. When a neighborhood is rezoned, upzoned, then new people buy up the old rent-stabilized affordable housing buildings, which are of a certain age and of a certain older style. When one lot gets a new tower built on it, the value of the surrounding land gets raised, additional buyers come in, kick out the original affordable housing tenants, and build new luxury condo towers with a few floors of, quote, affordable housing in them, probably with a poor door, or a poor floor, as I learned tonight. In this process, we lose more affordable housing than is replaced. Mom and pop stores also disappear because the commercial rents on the ground floor are raised, doubled, tripled. Then we have only banks and chain drug stores on our neighborhood blocks. We do not need more towers. We need air, space, sunlight. We need a human-scale city. We know, as Bernie Sanders would point out, that real estate and developers have made major contributions to the mayor's campaign fund. We do not want them to interfere with our elected representatives nor with our elected mayor. And I just want to say that I'm also a member of the Friends of South Street Seaport and of Save Our Seaport, and we are learning a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean Standish. And then Pearl Barkley.
My name is Jean Standish, and I represent the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors. The zoning for quality and affordability proposal would unnecessarily weaken neighborhood zoning protections and significantly increase height limits for new developments with little or no public benefit. Inclusionary zoning does not deal with the lack of affordable housing in New York City. Thousands of affordable apartments are needed to deal with this crisis. Inclusionary zoning will not be able to fulfill this demand since only a small percentage of affordable units, 20 to 30%, will be included in the market rate apartment buildings being proposed in this plan. It would take thousands of these upzoned market rate buildings to fulfill the enormous demand for affordable housing in this city. If all the issues regarding inclusionary zoning aren't thoroughly explored, it will have a negative effect on our communities, mainly that of secondary displacement. The majority of apartments in these buildings will be market rate, and this will certainly have an effect on real estate values and the demographics in our neighborhoods. I live in the East Village. The East Village and Lower East Side are low-rise and low-density. Consequently, a large influx of market-rate tenants and large buildings will most certainly affect the character of our community, displacing middle and low-income residents and small businesses. Low-rise buildings will become soft sites and will be vulnerable to tear-downs. DCP has promised that there will be protection in place from landlord harassment and evictions. Thus far, the city has done little to protect tenants from avaricious landlords in the wake of escalating rents in our city. To sum up, this is a big fat gift to developers. I urge you to oppose zoning for quality and affordability. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Pearl Barkley and then John Medina. Our human voice is heard.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for having this meeting, Borough President Brewer. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, just talk real loud, put it right next to your mouth.
My name is Pearl Barkley. I'm a long-term resident of East Harlem and a member of Community Voices Heard. According to Article 25 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. This document was written in 1948, and here we are in 2015, still trying to figure out a way to provide housing. With all due respect, housing lotteries are shameful. I met a person today that went through that and it was horrible. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that the mayor's mandatory inclusionary proposal is full of exclusions, starting with the poor. It is also based on the unfounded and ridiculous assumption that profit-driven or non-profit developers can and will provide adequate housing for all New Yorkers who need it. In order to provide housing for all New Yorkers who need it, a combination of strategies and sources should be used, including the New York City government, to build and supply housing. One of the main reasons why public housing was established is that by that time it was well understood that the market will never provide enough housing for those who need it. The city government should stop shirking its responsibility and admit that it needs to build more public housing. Another strategy to use is to establish community land trusts. As to the ZQA and the building of high-rises that is being proposed, I suggest that before this commences a full exploration and repair of the infrastructure for safety reasons. Right now in Jefferson houses where I have lived for over 20 years, on any day, unexpectedly, sewage will back up into apartments of tenants who live on the first floor at any time. Last year's East Harlem explosion is another signal that the infrastructure needs to be explored and repaired. And I hate to say that I was sorry to hear that they were told in the news that people did not complain. People complain in my neighborhood day and night, day and night, day and night. We are complainants. Environmental impact studies also need to be done to identify the ill effects of development. Money for housing could be obtained through the use of the Valley Park Fund as well as by implementation of the robbery tax. Finally, a safety net must be available to cover the lowering of rents for residents in the event of personal crisis. And to conclude, we do not live in a time when people can cut down trees and build more cabins. Something has to give, plain and simple.
Thank you very much. Is coming up. I also just want to thank the Chair of Community Board 8, Jim Klein. Thank you very much for being here. I want to thank Toby Bergman, who's the Chair of Community Board 2. I want to thank Diane Collier, who's the Acting Chair of Community Board 11. And Andrew LaSalle, who's the District Manager of Community Board 10. Thank you very much for all being here. John Medina.
Hi, Borough President Gale A. Brewer. Always a pleasure to see you. You know you're my silent hero, even though nobody says it.
Skip all that, John.
I have been a resident of East Harlem for 17 years. I want to discuss the mandatory inclusionary housing proposal by Mayor Blasio because suggested density and height should not be given away without real affordability. We need affordable to be defined for lower incomes. We require a higher percentage of the apartments to be affordable, and we require quality union jobs for the local community. We have many in the community that work for the city, state, are part of unions, and we're sick and tired of having these jobs outsourced to the tri-state area and non-New Yorkers that live here. 70 to 75% are market rate units. This does not solve the housing crisis. The mayor's proposal will displace too many seniors on fixed income. This plan will destroy our culture and community. I spent 12 years in combat in Iraq, and I am disgraced to come back home and I have to fight for my grandmother, who's 94 years old, to stay in her unit. That she worked during World War II as a riveter for the ships on the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and now she can't even afford to die with dignity in the city that she helped build. And I'm sure a lot of many of you guys are true heroes of the city. Without Bloomberg's tourist plan, which did make the city a tourist spot, all right, to push all of us the hell out. So if you take that plan, Brewer, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Eric Stern, Community Board Number 5, and thank you, Eric, for all of your work. And then Catherine Schoonover. Here comes Eric.
Come on, Eric. Stay ready to run.
Thank you very much, Madam Borough President.
Speak right into the mic, please.
Okay. My name is Eric Stern, and I chair the Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee in Manhattan Community Board 5. This past Thursday, we passed 2 resolutions. They were both deny unless with conditions related to zoning for quality and affordability and mandatory inclusionary housing text amendments. On ZQA, we felt that there were definitely positive aspects of the proposal, eliminating special permit for nursing homes, eliminating the 400 square foot minimum unit size, but we felt that it didn't go far enough, and that if there was to be a citywide text amendment geared toward getting more affordability, other changes needed to be made. The first is that we felt that all R10 program areas should be immediately designated as inclusionary housing designated areas. This would significantly increase the production of affordable housing that we get today, not having to wait for the imposition of mandatory inclusionary zoning, 10, 15 years from now in our community district. We also were concerned that the affordable independent residences for seniors would not require permanent affordability for those units. So after a 30-year regulatory agreement with HPD, those units could revert to market rate at 12 FAR. We didn't think that was fair. We didn't think that was good for the community. We also do not believe that the modifications of maximum height should apply to the Ladies Mile Historic District. We already have the 74-711 special permit that affords our board the ability to make sure that development is contextual and that the building envelope can fit all of the available FAR. To the next resolution, mandatory inclusionary, we were broadly supportive of the goals of MIH, but we felt that there needed to be a number of key changes in order for us to be supportive. The first relates to the options. There's very high rent burden in our community district, and we felt that a 50% affordable set-aside for a range of incomes, but where those incomes average 75% of AMI, was both appropriate for our district and financially feasible according to the BAE economic analysis. We were very concerned about the proposed special permit, 73-624. From our experiences with the Board of Standards and Appeals on finding B, we find that they are not very, not as strict as we would like in how they interpret economic hardship. And we're very concerned that the DSA would waive and really be bound by their own precedent to waive affordability requirements that MAH would require. Instead, we think that there should be a mechanism through which a developer goes to HPD, can show all of their pro formas, and if HPD believes that a project does not pencil out, then HPD could provide some sort of time-limited subsidy, which would allow a project to go through, but which would ensure that the building, for the long term, does not have decreased sort of affordability that is affordable housing provided to the community. 2 other very quick points. One is that we're concerned about the off-site option. While it's the same number of units, perhaps, the same amount of floor area, there's no guarantee that 30 years from now, the off-site affordable units will not have to go to the city to get subsidy from us taxpayers. And so it's one thing if the off-site units were a greater number of units or better units, but they're no better quality units and they're probably going to cost the public more. And so we feel like that off-site option should be taken off. And finally, we're concerned that tenants of the affordable units of mixed income buildings will not have affordable access to the amenities, the children's playroom, to roof access. Any project that is going to be subsidized or facilitated through an upzoning should ensure that all tenants of the building are full members, that no one is excluded. And so these are both deny unless we think they both can be modified, but at this point in time, these are the word.
Thank you, Eric, for all of your activities. Thank you very much. We're going to keep going, but please try to summarize your testimony because the school, understandably, has been very, very generous, but we are way past our time. Go ahead, Catherine.
Good evening, Madam Borough President. Thank you for holding this hearing. My name is Catherine Schoonover, and I live on Washington Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. While I am supportive in general of the mayor's goal to increase the amount of affordable housing in the city, I am very concerned about the ZQA plan, and am very doubtful that it will achieve the mayor's objective. Instead, I believe it will do little or nothing to increase the amount of affordable housing available and will prove to be simply a giveaway to the city's real estate developers. It may, in fact, incentivize the demolition of older buildings that currently contain affordable housing, so that new market rate, meaning luxury housing, can be built in its place. Thus, the proposal could actually reduce the amount of affordable housing in the city, especially in neighborhoods like the Village, where the demand for more and more luxury housing is unrelenting. ZQA would increase the allowable height of existing zoning districts, including contextual zones, that are crucial to preserving the distinctive character of the city's historic districts. Thus, with the stroke of a pen, this proposal would wipe out provisions that residents in low-rise, largely residential neighborhoods, such as my own, have worked for so many years to secure to keep the height of new buildings no taller than surrounding buildings. It would be one thing to apply new height limits in areas that are rezoned in the future, but to do it retroactively and across the board for all existing zoning districts would be completely unfair and ensure unintended consequences. The character of our historic districts would be very adversely impacted, probably in a way that could never be reversed. It is my understanding that studies that have been done to determine why developers have not taken advantage of bonuses currently in place to incentivize the inclusion of 20% affordable housing in new construction have suggested that the added height allowances being offered under ZQA would not cause more affordable housing to be built. Instead, the buildings would just be taller and more appealing to market rate residents. The greater height limits with no countervailing benefit, or at least at best a tiny one attached, together with the provisions allowing more construction in rear yard open space and sliver buildings where they are not currently allowed, reveal this plan to be one that has been cleverly crafted by developers to get the things they want so that they can maximize their profits with no guaranteed benefit to the city. The wool has been pulled over the mayor's eyes, and I urge you to vote no on this proposal.
Thank you very much. Paul Forte from Richmond, all of you. Yes, you're next. Winestone. People are saying very good things about you, Paul. I just want you to know. Big shoes to fill.
My name is Paul White. I am the Executive Director of the West Side Federation for Senior and Supportive Housing, affectionately known as WSFISH. WSFISH strongly supports the provisions of the zoning for quality and affordability, which will help seniors remain in their communities by making it easier to provide affordable senior housing and care facilities. Older New Yorkers are the city's fastest growing demographic and will account for 20% of the population by 2030. Sadly, an estimated 1 in 5 older New Yorkers is living in poverty. WSFISH develops, manages, and owns over 1,700 units of affordable senior housing in the Bronx and Manhattan that range from independent living apartments to facilities that provide extensive services to allow seniors to age in place. From our position on the front lines, we recognize that the need for affordable senior housing has reached a crisis level. The number of seniors on our wait list is counted in the thousands, and the wait time for an apartment is counted in years. It is sobering to tell a senior citizen that the wait time for his or her apartment may be longer than a reasonable estimate for the balance of his or her lifetime. WSFISH has first-hand experience with the zoning envelope issues that the zoning for quality and affordability is attempting to address. We believe that the proposed modifications regarding ground floor units, setbacks, unit sizes, and especially parking will promote the development of high-quality, cost-effective, affordable senior housing. We particularly appreciate the provisions that allow for additional height in order to be able to fit in the allowable floor area. This will directly translate into more affordable senior apartments. WSFISH strongly supports the provisions for zoning for quality and affordability that will create opportunities for more and higher quality affordable senior apartments. However, we hope that these provisions can act in combination with regulations that protect the affordability of the units for the long term and incentivize production by nonprofit developers who are committed to building permanently affordable senior housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zach here, and then Esteban, I can't read the last name, but come on up, Esteban, afterwards.
Hello, my name is Zach Weinstein. I'm co-chair of the Greenwich Village Community Task Force. There is absolutely no doubt that New York City suffers from a crisis in affordable housing. Unfortunately, the so-called zoning for quality and affordability plan is not the answer to this problem. And quite frankly, this plan appears to have the fingerprints of the Real Estate Board of New York all over it. This plan will unnecessarily weaken neighborhood zoning protections and significantly increase height limits for new development with little or no public benefit. In our own neighborhood, in the West Village, this plan would increase by 5 to 10 feet the height limits for market rate developments with no affordable housing whatsoever. There's simply no justification for this. Equally troubling, the plan would eliminate sliver law restrictions on overly tall skinny developments if they set aside just a fraction of the units for affordable or senior housing. The plan would allow construction in rear yards in situations where it's currently prohibited. The plan would grant substantial bonuses in height and size for new luxury market rate developments that include just a small fraction of units set aside as senior affordable housing. And last, there's been a recurrent argument made that the current height limits of contextual zoning unfairly restrict developers and prohibit them from achieving the full FAR that they're entitled to on their lots. In our neighborhood, we are not aware of a single new building that was unable to utilize its full FAR under the existing contextual zoning. We'd also like to note that the buildings constructed under contextual zoning in our area are aesthetically far superior to the buildings built under the previous non-contextual zoning, a direct contradiction to claims that the contextual zoning has made proper design difficult. We spent over a decade, 15, 20 years fighting contextual zoning in our neighborhood, and quite frankly, this plan threatens to undo a significant amount of that work.
Thank you very much. Esteban? Now I know how great, but you have to pronounce your last name, Esteban.
Nimhard. Hi, Germany.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gale, for having this forum, and I really appreciate all the testimony that we heard from all the community organizations and labor folks that are here today. So I just wanted to, my testimony will not be as elaborate as everyone else's, but I just wanted to make a couple of points that I think needs to be made. And the basic thing is that, as Ava has said from the Met Council on Housing, the most affordable option, option one, when you break that down, someone had to earn $24.89 an hour to be able to afford that. If anyone's been paying attention to what's happening right now, we're fighting to raise the minimum wage from $8.75 to $15. And that's been like a mountain. We need a mountain to get that. So in 2018, that's going to happen in New York City for fast food workers. But that, that's only one group of low-wage workers. You remember when this new city government came in? That was a reversal from the 20 years of Giuliani and Bloomberg. When it came in, one of the big things that Blasio spoke about was 46% of New Yorkers living just above or under the poverty line. This is not addressing them. When we get to $15 an hour, we make $31,000 a year, which is $20,000 less than what we're talking about. So I think that's something we really got to look at here, and we can't underestimate that. The AMI is a core formula. I think everybody has made that point. And the fact is that with building these luxury towers inside of here, it's going to get even more flawed because the income is going to go up, and so that means more and more people are going to get priced out. Again, I also want to speak to what's been said before. 3 minutes. I want to speak to what they said before about the jobs being union jobs that are producing, that are building these buildings. And all they were saying with that is that the people who build these buildings, need to be able to afford to live in these buildings. That's all that demand is. And I think it's easy to support that. Another thing, I also want to second what was said about Met Council on Housing as far as scrapping the third option. That is not, that's a joke. That's a giveaway to the real estate board.
Thank you so much to all of you. Amelia Barnes, and then Edward Mendez, from Community Voices Heard and also George Grantham from Community Voices Heard. Maybe you two can go together. Go ahead, Amelia Barnes.
My name is Amelia Barnes. Anyone closer? Wow. Okay. My name is Amelia Barnes, and I have been a resident of New York City for over 50 years. On the west side as well as on the east. I grew up in Clinton houses, and I've been there for over 20 years. It was the kind of growing up that I can actually say that we were part of a community where the housing, the building, and the people were all part of a community. We worked together, we lived together, we helped each other. And this is the kind of thing that we need to see continue to exist. I am a member of Christ Temple, of Faith New York, and CBH. To help the New York community, I am also here to talk about the mandatory inclusionary housing proposal because it is not including the low-income residents, which currently and have been living here in New York City. We have all shared in life in New York, and this proposal excludes a lot of those who have lived here. This area has had different cultures who have blended, worked, looked out, and protected each other. It is more convenient to live here in East Harlem because of the availability of transportation and activities that are within reach. We have been a part of this area for so long, and the current plans do not include our continued presence. Therefore, I cannot support mandatory inclusionary housing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Edward and George, Community Voices Heard. You're here? All right, George, go ahead. And we're back. Thank you.
Right? Good.
Come on, folks, let's go. Whoever wants to go next, let's go. Let's introduce yourself and go ahead.
Edward Carrion from Community Voices Heard. All right. I come from Harlem, okay, East Harlem. I've been there since 1956. All right. And I've been there, okay, during a time when nobody else wanted to be there. Okay. And I was there when being in Harlem was close to being condemned. Okay? But guess what? We were there and we survived. Okay? We're being told now, okay, that we can't be there anymore. Okay? We're being told we cannot raise, okay, our family there. Okay? This is wrong. Okay? This is, okay, man, insults on injury. Now, we are presented with the zoning plan, okay? For the people to really follow this plan, two things must be in place. The first thing being okay, transparency. Okay, okay. Who's going to vote on this plan? Okay. What kind of ties, okay, have they got to the developers?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a possible conflict here? Okay, transparency as to the environmental impact, social, economic impact study here, okay? Without transparency, okay, you can't have trust. Okay, the final point here is let the people vote. Okay, let the people vote for this plan. Okay, we are the ones who are going to pay consequences. We are the ones who are going to be impacted. Okay, give the people, okay, the right to self-determination.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Thank you.
Thank you. I was asked to do a poem, but before I get to that, I would like each and every one of you up here to give yourselves a hand for being here tonight. And I get everybody
Introduce yourself, too. Go ahead.
My name is George Stramper.
Okay.
I also like to thank everyone who brought this affair together. When you finish leave here, please go to Google and type in Harlem Keepers of the Planet. We put this video together, it's only 3 minutes and 50 seconds, about our love for Harlem. We thought about the Renaissance, from the Renaissance period to now. A lot of people passed on the torch to us, and we feel that there's a burning flame in us. So that's why we say in the video it's called Harlem Keepers of the Flame, and you go to Google. My name is George Rampart, and I wrote a few poems, and this poem is entitled Harlem, Please Don't Forget. Each day I see Harlem take a change. For some it's okay, but for me it's strange. Some people come because of the tour, but for some it's much, much more. Nobody has a right to say where a person can and cannot live, but some are here to take from Harlem what I want to give. The question was asked to me, how do you feel about the changes that you see? The bus loads that come for the first time, but staying driven what's on their mind. Must someone leave or be displaced because they're told there's not enough space? The 8 train, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 train, the J train, the shuttle, the Metro North line, all of this makes Harlem out of a place to live, but someone here to take from Harlem what I want to give. The Tri-Borough Bridge, the George Washington Bridge, the 59th Street Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge makes Harlem the ideal place to live, but someone here to take from Harlem what I want to give. Yes, I see Harlem now, and I saw Harlem before, but to save Harlem, they said we would be starting a war. Harlem is all that I know, and I'm not ready to go. Harlem is in my blood, it shaped my dreams. Say Harlem, watch how you get respect, and don't worry, Harlem, yeah.
Thank you very much. Cheryl Penhouse, and then Carol Crump, and then Ann McDermott, as quickly as possible. So Cheryl's next. Okay. If Cheryl's not here, go to Carol Crump. Is Carol here? Yes, here's Carol.
Thank you for that lovely poem. My name is Carol Crump, and I'm here representing East Village Community Coalition this evening as acting managing director, and EVCC, East Village Community Coalition, stands side by side with the goals and GDSHP and our colleagues in preservation asking you to oppose ZQA and NLH. We've spent countless hours advocating and educating our communities, and with our historic district and our contextual district, it's a source of pride for our mom and pop shops, our artists, and ZQA undoes all that work that we have done. It doesn't serve our residents, and it helps developers more than we need to help them, and it doesn't build community. ZQA disempowers and destroys our communities.
Thank you. Ann McDermott, and then Richard Mosi.
Hi, my name is Ann McDermott. Thank you for this proceeding. My family has resided in New York City since 1887.
As I walk around the city I've been born and raised in, and I've called home for the last 56 years, it seems like it's being erased. Walk down a block, your favorite store is gone. Walk down another block, buildings that are used to house social services to disabled people, like United Cerebral Palsy on 23rd and Lexington, are being demolished and turned into luxury condos, like the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies at 22nd Street and Park Avenue. I am against the ZQA across the city because I believe it's not about housing, and certainly not about affordable housing. It's about lining the pockets of the real estate industry that has been given free rein and has never grown on them for the last 10 years, thereby erasing our beautiful architecture, case in point, 51 East 52nd Street, which is being destroyed for one Vanderbilt, and our cultural heritage. I'm sure Jacqueline Kennedy is rolling over in her grave watching that monstrosity go up. City government needs to focus on protecting and existing affordable housing by not allowing landlords to legally evict rent-stabilized and rent-controlled tenants and to enforce the laws on the books against Airbnb and others like it. Airbnb currently has 30,000 apartments listed, and over 50% of them are illegal. The building I live in has been turned into a hotel. 27 units, and 7 of us are actual tenants. No occupancy tax is paid, no city tax is paid. The people come and go as if it were the Hilton. I would like neighbors, not Dutch tourists with wheelie bags. Neighborhoods like Long Island City and downtown Brooklyn have been almost wiped out and destroyed by the free rein given to the real estate moguls by the Economic Development Council. And they've built monstrosities that are totally upscale of what the neighborhood has historically been. We might as well change the name of our city to New Crane instead of New York. Because one cannot walk down the street in Manhattan and not see a crane. This level of development is unsustainable and needs to be stopped.
Thank you very much. Richard Mosey, and then Jay Dubno.
Good evening, and thank you, Borough President Brewer, for hosting this hearing. And my name is Richard Moses. I'm the president of the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative. We're a not-for-profit group dedicated to preserving the historic Lower East Side of Manhattan. Lower East Side Preservation Initiative respectfully asks that your office oppose the Department of City Planning's proposed zoning for quality and affordability text amendments. Our concerns focus on the city's historic neighborhoods, some but not all of which are New York City historic districts, particularly within the traditional Lower East Side, which extends from East 14th all the way down to south of Chinatown. Our primary objection to this proposal is that the rezoning treats the city with much too broad a brush. Certain areas of the city may be suitable for this kind of upzoning, but many areas definitely are not, including most of the East Village, Lower East Side, Bowery, and Chinatown. I do want to say that in the interest of brevity, that we are in agreement with our sister preservation organizations, including the New York Landmarks Conservancy, Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation, and good old Lower East Side and East Village Community Coalition regarding our concerns. And although we're very supportive of income diversity and affordable housing for New Yorkers, we believe that this proposal's broad brush approach to zoning disempowers communities and relies on a one-size-fits-all solution which will necessarily show poor results. Anyone who's walked around the East Village, Lower East Side knows that development has been proceeding at a ferocious, out-of-control pace, resulting in the loss of a lot of mom-and-pop stores and long-time residents. The ZQA will only make matters worse in this regard. We respectfully urge that your office oppose the proposed zoning for quality and affordability amendment and advocate for any potential rezonings to be formulated and reviewed on a community-by-community basis and only where appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then Kathleen Kelly, Frank Lowe.
Hi, good evening. Am I speaking to the mic?
You are.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing this President Brewer. So my name is Jeannie Dumel, and I'm with RENA, which is Riverside Edgecombe Neighborhood Association, a neighborhood association that's been in existence since 1960 in West Harlem, Washington Heights. I'm not going to say everything that I wanted to say because New Yorkers have made their voices heard tonight. All I want to say is, refer to the Bronx is Burning Halloween party thrown by real estate in the South Bronx in November. That shows the contempt that developers have for New Yorkers. They're planning to build 2 luxury towers in the South Bronx, one of the poorest areas of our city. The fact that Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. and Bronx Assemblyman Carl Hastie came to this insulting party shows how some elected officials are complicit in this destruction of New York City affordable housing. Real estate is ruling our city. Our mayor has received millions of dollars from real estate to further his campaign. We reject mandatory inclusionary housing. Everyone sitting in the room will agree that the lack of affordable housing is the main crisis in New York. Our community, West Harlem, Washington Heights, the median family income, and I just looked this up, is $47,000. A third of this income would be about $15,000, meaning a monthly rent of about $1,000 would be considered affordable. However, over half of our people earn less than this, so they could not afford this rent. But our mayor's plan for affordable housing allows millions of dollars in tax relief, 421A, for construction buildings that include only 25 to 30% affordable housing. And as everybody knows, most of those apartments will not be affordable to our community anyway. We're losing more affordable apartments because of the vacancy control law in Albany than we will possibly gain with the mayor's plan. So why not develop our own plan for affordable housing? Why are we relying on real estate, which is only driven by their profits? New York City used to have a tax on stock transfers. This would raise billions of dollars. We will pay 4.5% sales tax in New York City, every one of us, when we go to buy things. But there's no New York City stock transfer tax. Luxury housing in New York City has been subsidized by tax abatements, which, if collected, could instead subsidize the construction of affordable housing, 100% affordable housing. None of this 25, 30, AMI, this, that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Kathleen Kelly, and then Frank Lowe, and then Victoria Wilstrom, and then Lowe Van der Valk.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Kelly, and I'm a CB6 member. I can't speak for the board, I'm just a member. This program will bring huge changes to the urban landscape and the way people live. This plan fast tracks the process for developing housing, and that basically means it gives as-of-right privileges to developers while meeting minimal requirements for units of housing in the Blasio program. People talked about before, you have a regular process for a building or development. This gives all the power away to developers in one fell swoop. The Bloomberg administration version of this program was criticized for not recognizing communities, and this plan is just a continuation of that. It's clear that sales and rents prices will increase, but it's not clear why no one ever asked while investors come and buy these apartments and buildings that they don't have to pay taxes. Something like Senator Brad Hoylman get-a-tear tax was never taken seriously. And that's something we could all be asking about. And it's not clear why they're making these record profits. They don't even want to pay prevailing wage rate to workers building buildings. And also they're supposed to build these jobs developing from these buildings for the communities, and they're not there either. The last time that carte blanche was given to a city power broker like this, many neighborhoods were ruined. We're now dealing with an economy that is much less forgiving than the last time city planning made such sweeping changes. How can we do the same mistake that we made with Robert Moses again with our city planning right now? No mistake. Mr. doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to go out and make as much money as they possibly can. They're doing their job. Is my city councilman going to do his job and speak up for us? Are the other representatives of city council going to speak up for the New Yorkers? In our CV, people are going to be displaced based on this program. I grew up in Manhattan. My family's not in Manhattan anymore because they were displaced. Urban planners will call it incorrect white flight. White flight did exist in many places, but not in CB6. We were shoved out, we were displaced. You have the police now that don't see people in front of them when they go to work. This policy doesn't see the people in front of them. Our government is dictating to the police this parallel process, how to not see people in front of them.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service on the board, sir. Frank Lowe, and then Victoria Wilson.
Good evening. My name is Frank Lowe. Thank you for sharing this meeting.
You have to put it right next to your mouth, Frank.
Go. Thank you for chairing this meeting. I just wanted to make a few comments. In 1940, New York City had a population of about 8.4 million. It was a low-rise city. Today, 2010, it had a population of approximately 8.4 million. We have become a high-rise city. People go from their offices to apartment houses that look just like their offices. It seems extremely strange to me. CD4 has worked very hard for many years to have a good planning and zoning plan for Chelsea. This new plan is going to throw that out the window. We should be working for preservation, and that should take precedence over development in Chelsea and other areas. Preserve, not replace. Multiply units and add new. We need to be building affordable units for real people at affordable rates, often below median income. We are at a unique juncture in history where the rate of return on investment capital is extremely low, but in real estate in New York, it is very safe. So the city of New York can ask of developers a very, very high bar for things that make this city livable and affordable for the people who live in it. The developers are not going to go away because there is no way to go to. It is here. And I think that's the end of what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Victoria, and the last one is Lowe Vanderbilt. Stop right into the mic, Victoria.
I live in Tribeca at 385 Greenwich, aka 71 North Moore. Our case just helped push the lawful bill past the Senate with Senator Earlman's squadron, Assemblyman Nicolay. Many of you may know our story. I'm the face to the story. The developer of the Greenwich Hotel, BT Hotels, made up a story on us to put us in breach of lease. Where the developer would have their neighbors' tenants, as they did at the Chelsea Hotel and the Jane Hotel. We have caught the city falsifying the records for our lofts over 129 times to date, issuing permits to repair damage the city falsely claims that do not exist. Where, as many of our friends at the Tribeca Trust, the friends in the South Street Seaport, have spoken to so many people in this room, spoken to all of the issues that we would like to speak to. We would just like to say that we now represent the face of homelessness facing the city. We are now the homeless New Yorkers. And a very nice law what our landlord did was illegal. They failed to serve notice from any court, acted out as 4 courts at once. We won. We caught them lying to 3 Supreme Court judges. And here I have respect to you. I know that you will vote properly. I know so many women have paid for you. But I just want to say that this plan puts our most vulnerable the workers at risk, and I sincerely hope that you will think of them and we came to support you.
Thank you very much. Roseanne DeWalt here. Great. And then the last one would be member of Community Board 11, Marisa Roman.
My name is Lo Van DeWalt. I'm president of Quality and Affordability. We're located in the Upper East Side. We thank you, Borough President, for holding this meeting. I just want to say that we look to you and your staff, and your great staff, and your great leadership to really have a voice in slowing down the city and pushing through this ZQA, because your geographic district encompasses many social levels, many geographic levels, many types of housing. So your voice is going to be very important, and we look to you for your leadership. I just want to say a few things. We think that the process, we've been following this process at the community board, and it is so vast that no one really can get their hands around it and understand it. And that's why I think we're seeing Community Board 8 has not fully given its views. That's the community board we attend. I also want to point to the fact that there seems to be a contradiction in the premise that others have mentioned this, that affordability is, in the real terms, is not really being addressed. And we are concerned specifically with, thankfully, your intervention that R8B has been largely protected. There may be some few elements of that still lingering, but mainly it has been protected. We're thankful for that. We think civil laws should be observed. We are concerned about Lexington Avenue because it really is almost a narrow street. The cutting line is 75 feet. It is exactly 75 feet across. And there are allowances being made for increases in bulk and height. I want to say finally that if you strip away the affordability component to the legislation being proposed, there's still a lot there that developers can take advantage of. And that's sort of a contradiction, because it means they can sidestep the affordability and still are gaining hugely under this. And we hope we'll be able to unravel that and speak to it. And ultimately, finally, I would like to say, we're in a building boom. I don't see that the building industry, and we're not against building, but we don't think that this sort of false subsidy idea should just benefit building. We're very concerned about the historic fabric of our communities. We think that these incentives will diminish that, and many people have spoken.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, Mr. Roman, the youngest member of Community Board 11, and then David Levine from AIA.
Hi, Gale. Feeling good?
Yep.
Go ahead. Okay. Hello, my name is Mr. Rahman. Hello to those who don't know me, and hello to those who do know me. I'm a full board member for C11, but today I'm speaking for myself. I reside in NYCHA housing, and members of NYCHA, we are bored. We are bored. Since if we were to look at the MI of these new affordable buildings are being made, it simply restricts us. People in low income who seek to make a better stand for themselves. With the zoning quality amendment, I would express caution and concern, since these units are made that they do not accommodate to not only the elderly, but also disabled workers. A lot of people in my district have such, and would feel disappointed and excluded from such. Now, not only is the rent too high, but also the building heights, which I feel should be restricted in order to preserve the the neighborhood. With mandatory inclusionary affordable housing, it needs to be 100% affordable to the homeless people, to our vets, to the American people, but most of all for our neighborhood, to the new immigrants, to the new Americans who are coming. And I would agree with our land consultant, George, request for environmental review since our people in our district have a lot of health issues happening. And when I vote next week on these amendments, I'm going to vote with the interest of East Harlem in my mind and my heart. Good night, New York.
He's about 16. Are you 17 or 16?
I'll be 17 right now.
So this is a member of a community board where we passed a law that said 16 and 17-year-olds would be members, and he's an example. Thank you very much. We're very proud of you. David Levine from AIA, and then Sarah Watson from CHPC.
Thank you, Borough President Brewer, for hosting this hearing. My name is David Levine. I'm representing the AIA, the American Institute of Architects New York chapter. The AIA New York chapter represents over 5,000 architects and design professionals throughout the five boroughs and is committed to positively impacting physical and social qualities of the city. We have reviewed the city planning and zoning for quality and affordability, and we believe that these revisions will help facilitate the construction of affordable and senior housing. As well as offering architects more flexibility to create better buildings, more responsive to local contexts. Spark the development of many surface parking lots and empty lots with regular dimensions and decouple creation of housing from parking requirements, thereby encouraging the use of mass transit and more sustainable city. Specifically in the initiative, we think there are numerous positive aspects, such as more retail space, commercial districts by the creation of a higher ceiling on the ground floor to enable better retail. It will improve residential spaces by providing adequate ceiling heights, which will improve lighting in residential units. It will also increase the security and privacy for residents by raising, in some cases, the floor above the sidewalk that is currently directly on view with dwelling units at the sidewalk. Further, we believe this is an improvement for aging in place. The senior population, as many has talked to tonight, is increasing dramatically, and many seniors want to stay in the neighborhood. By encouraging more dedicated senior buildings in low and high-density districts, zoning quality and affordability takes a progressive step forward to create a city that allows aging with dignity. Further, the additional height near the major infrastructure will enhance the quality of the housing. ZQA also improves visual variety and resurgence of features in common and traditional historic apartment buildings. The proposed amendment will allow greater flexibility in design and construction without radical increase in building height. For example, front courts not only improve the streetscape but improve natural ventilation. Also, the reduction in unnecessary parking requirements will help reduce the costs of the construction of affordable housing. Parking lots, especially in senior buildings, are largely underutilized and instead provide additional apartments, community spaces, or outdoor amenities. We also support the relaxed density caps and the minimum apartment size. This flexibility provided by the proposal will allow the creation of more compact dwelling units, as well as a variety of housing types to accommodate the city's changing demographics. Those issues being said, we believe that these changes are beneficial. However, we do believe that it should be more discourse in the following topics, such as public education for these amendments, street wall height increases in contextual zoning districts, budgeting for infrastructure, sustainability, and current mapping of mixed-use districts. I finally want to close with saying what the ZQA will not do. It will not provide additional market rate floor area because these changes apply to floor area in senior housing and inclusionary housing. It will not encourage tear downs. There's no elimination of any contextual zoning district. All the properties in historic districts and landmark buildings will remain subject to review by the Landmark Preservation Commission. And there will be no change for as-of-right residential rules in 1 and 2 family districts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excellent testimony. Sarah Watson, and and then Christabel Go, and then Carol Ratko.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Watson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Citizens Housing Planning Council, CHPC. We're the oldest civic organisation focused on housing and urban planning research in New York City. I'm here on behalf of CHPC to put forward our support for the proposed zoning for quality and affordability text change by the Department of City Planning. In recent years, we heard from many people across the affordable housing field that the rules that set the external dimensions for a new building in a contextual district had not kept up with the realities of residential construction. Because the dimensions hadn't been altered since the 80s, potential apartments were now being left unbuilt, and it would be very difficult for a new inclusionary housing program to actually even work. We undertook a case study to look at this issue. We studied 17 recently built housing developments with affordable housing that were in contextual districts. We found that 8 out of the 17 buildings were unable to provide the number of apartments that were allowed to be built under their allotted floor area due to rules dictating their outer dimensions. Just from those 8 buildings, over 56,000 square foot of potential apartments was left unbuilt. In light of our findings and the extensive work City Planning has done to understand this issue and remedy it, we offer our full support for the zoning quality and affordability text amendment. It's crucial for our city with its limited land, huge demand for housing, and rapidly rising prices that housing development and our goals for residential buildings are not constrained by this technical issue. We understand the text change is highly complex, and it's controversial to discuss allowing some additional height, however modest, to new buildings. However, the core principles of contextual zoning are still in place. Maximum floor area limits, controls on the shape and size of a new building will all still be set. And now even a limit on the number of stories for new buildings has even been added, and historic districts and landmarks are unaffected. However, these changes will make it easier to build the number of apartments permitted for a site. They'll allow buildings to accommodate the affordable housing required in the new inclusionary housing program. New buildings will be able to accommodate higher ceiling heights and more efficient layouts for apartments. They'll be able to offer more design variation at the street level and better quality retail space. New and efficient methods of construction will be facilitated, such as block-compliant construction. And more development sites will be opened up for affordable housing on irregularly shaped lots that are currently vacant. We also favour the reduced parking requirements for new low-income affordable housing urgently across the city. The text amendment is worded very carefully to make sure the reductions are only for sites that have adequate access to transit and for populations that have demonstrated low car ownership levels.
Can you wrap up?
Yes, New York is projected to see dramatic increases in the elderly population, therefore we also support the proposed amendments for affordable senior housing. And in summary, we congratulate the Department of City Planning on these amendments. It's an act of good government to update regulations to keep up with emerging needs.
Thank you very much. Christabel, and then Carol Ratko.
This bill for the Society for the Architecture of the City. It is misleading when a defined term is used as if it were plain English. Discussions framed by the Blasio administration in terms of affordable housing are immediately biased, unfortunately, in the wrong direction. As we've heard tonight, federally defined affordable housing, AMI, is not affordable in so many New York City locations. Zoning for quality and affordability is part of this hypocrisy of the administration. It is bound to reduce even further the inadequate amount of housing that currently exists for low and moderate income households because it provides pretext for harassment and deregulation affecting rent-regulated tenants. To seek profitability and therefore motivation for investors in the height and bulk expansion proposed, removing existing rent-controlled and rent-stabilized tenants has to be an unseen part of this package. Building additions to existing occupied buildings would bring unlimited opportunities for tenant harassment with noise, noxious dust and fumes, plaster cracking, vibration, interruption of services, lack of security, problems with vermin, continuing probably for years. And what is to become of the tenants when ZQA is seen as a demolition incentive? In terms of historic preservation, which is our interest, ZQA is also a pretext
for disfigured and unprotected historic buildings, which would then become ineligible for future landmark designation, as might whole neighborhoods that are now potential historic districts. And the HBC will tell you about the demand citywide for more historic districts. The Real Estate Board of New York is already in gear, publicizing their claim that landmarking prevents the creation of affordable housing, ignoring its role in preventing demolition of rent-regulated buildings in historic districts. In fact, we think the entire package of amendments should be enacted, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen Radcliffe.
Hello, my name is Sarah Radcliffe. I'm the director of a small arts and cultural organization in the East Village called Artway Cider Foundation. I'm the vice president of the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative and I'm the chairperson for my walk association. I'm also on the committee board. But the concerns that I have, I came to this neighborhood that I live in now in 1989. I know a great many of my neighbors because we all worked very hard to clear a block, to develop it. La Plaza Cultural, which is a park that you've been to a number of times, was one of our major initiatives to reclaim it for our neighborhood. It's the zoning proposals that are coming forth now with allowing buildings to go up higher. Our neighborhood from 14th Street, really from 17th Street down, Avenue A to Avenue D is built on a swamp. There are photographs of the East River at Avenue D and 9th Street in 1934 by Benny Sad. When new construction goes up in my neighborhood, the existing buildings that happen to have rent control and rent stabilized tenants who live there for quite a while and would like to keep their apartments, those buildings are in danger. They have cracked, they have been repaired. We've been told, oh, don't worry, you know. So we have a lot of concerns about the proposals for existing height regulations. The new proposals that have gone up for solar lots have been misinterpreted. The ceiling height is like 8 feet. They want to try to jam in 8 floors in what would normally be a 6-story building. And it's just something that we're all concerned about because we fear for our lives, for coming home and seeing our buildings collapse because of the type of construction that goes on. It's required in our neighborhood that piles be driven for any new construction. Okay, our buildings were built, they were built out by hand, they were built on a fieldstone basements and stuff. So at any rate, I appreciate very much your efforts in leading this discussion. And I'm going to wrap it up and just say thank you and please vote against this.
Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing, but I want to thank the staff of the Manhattan Borough President's Office. We see Jim Harrison, where's Blasio here, over there, and each and every one of that staff. I want to thank the interpreters very much. I want to thank the Clinton School staff, which I see up there wishing that we would hurry up. And I want to thank each and every one of you who stuck it to the end and who testified. And we will be making the decisions by the end of this month, according to the charter. And we really appreciate each and every person who testified. Thank you very much. Anything else to add?
That's it.
Go home. Thank you so much, you two.
Gail, you want to come have a drink?
Yeah, I love it. Who are you?